Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Hotline League. It is a banger episode. You know, all those previous episodes, they've been terrible, but this one's going to be amazing because it is Star Guardian week on Hotline League. That's right. We're theming the whole episode Star Guardian. There's going to be lots of friendship and stars. And what happens to Star Guardian, Mark?
I don't pay attention. I fucking slam that shit just like I do in Genshin Impact. I think Rakan died or they forgot about.
Aren't you super into like anime and stuff?
Yeah, I don't know. It's not like I'm watching anime. When I want to slam ARAMs, I don't care. I just want to unlock things.
Oh, okay.
I'm a spacebar masher in all games unless it's actually a story-driven game.
Great. All right. Well, let's start off by introducing my constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman. How you been, Mark?
Good, great. Been watching TV and stuff as always. I watched a great movie called Not Okay. A surprising number of critics online have completely missed the point of that movie and think it's about social media when it's not. And if you think it's about social media, you are probably a doofus. And I was also watching Paper Girls, which is also a banger.
Nice. Was there anything else that you finished this week as a show?
Was there?
Any finales for any shows?
Players! Hey, that's right. Are we going to record a review tomorrow?
Yeah, let's do it. We should finally do it. We failed, and people have been angry. They've been tweeting at me about how we haven't been doing it, so we need to do it. It's just we've had a hard time getting time for it. But we will be doing that, so stay tuned for our Players review coming out this week. Quick shout out to Alienware and Grubhub for sponsoring the show. We'll talk more about them later on. But without further ado, let me introduce this week's guest, which is none other than Bwipo, fresh off of the LCS broadcast. How's it going, Bwipo?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I'm doing good. It's good to have you on. I'm glad you were able to make it. We've had a string of really great player guests over the past couple of weeks, so you have a lot to live up to, is what I'm getting at. You have to make sure that you don't. You're going to be compared to all of these folks. So.
All right.
Yeah. No, but how's things been for you? I mean, obviously, Summer Split I know is not probably going the way that you guys want it to go. You're tied for third, technically speaking, but I know you've got a lot of one-on-ones lately. But I don't know, how are you doing otherwise?
Pretty good. I mean, obviously the results aren't what we want or expected. I think that's the roughest part. But otherwise, I'm doing very well. TL takes great care of me, and I'm very happy here. So, yeah, just having a really good time.
What was it like being on the LCS broadcast this weekend?
It was
the
fun.
Worst part talking to the analysts?
No, it wasn't. I don't mind.
Travis, you know that was last weekend, right? I think you're confused.
You're right. I am confused. No.
That was last week.
No. Wait. That's why I hit Bwipo. It's all merging together now. I hit up TL because Bwipo was on, and then Fudge was on this weekend, but they both interviewed each other both weekends, and that is why I got this all mixed up in my head.
Makes sense.
But I stand by my question, which was the worst part of being on the LCS broadcast working with the analysts?
It wasn't. No.
Okay.
I actually don't have a worst part if I were to answer. Everyone was very pleasant, and I had a great time.
Don't believe it. Something's got to be the worst. Even if it's all 9 out of 10.
I just don't know I don't know what it was. Like, I didn't think about it. You know, after that experience, I wasn't thinking to myself like, "Damn, I need to pick out the worst out of all of this."
Wow.
That was not an.
What was the best part of it then?
Best part of it? Let me think. I think it was all the same. More fun than analysis. I think casting is more fun than analysis because you get to talk about the game rather than spin narratives, which I get is necessary to keep people engaged. But I'm not a huge narrative guy. I'm very much the type of guy that's like, you show up on the day, you talk about what happened on the day, and then you move on.
Gotcha. Okay. It doesn't matter. The past doesn't matter. The future doesn't matter. What happens is that moment, and that's what matters.
That's what I believe in. Yes.
Yes. Okay. I appreciate it. That's good. No, I mean, I think it's been really cool to see the players on the broadcast over the past couple of weeks. You obviously did a great job that weekend. I feel like a lot of people were excited. Did it make you ever think about like a broadcast life post professional play?
Well, yeah, it's an option I'm considering. It's not something that I want to have to consider, but it's something that's always in the back of my mind.
Look, maybe when you're 40, okay? Legends, so. I'm not saying it's anytime soon, but far into the future.
Yeah, basically, 100%. I love League of Legends as the game. I still enjoy playing it every day. Sometimes it can be frustrating, but so is every game, right?
Yeah.
And as long as I have an opportunity to do something in League of Legends in the future, I'll be a happy person.
Yeah. No, I get it. I think obviously after this weekend, I feel like a lot of people, or last weekend, a lot of people would feel like you did a great job and would blend well, especially the cast. I really enjoyed. I thought it was fantastic. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mark, I know obviously we've got some callers, but is there anything you want to talk to Bwipo about before we get into kind of the week's topics?
I mean, I have a lot of questions about obviously Team Liquid. I'm sure we'll get a lot of conversation about Team Liquid from callers and stuff. On a personal level, I've been trying to do a better job of like asking what people do for fun and stuff like that. What's like I mean, obviously you're here on your day off, but what's like a Bwipo? I got the day free. I'm going to go do something. Like, what do you do?
I mean, for me, is relieving stress is the most important part of an off day. And the way I do that is by not doing anything at all. Like not feeling the pressure to do anything is the best way for me to relieve stress. And, I just want to be able to just sit down in my chair on my computer and just, click on whatever I feel like. It doesn't have to be the League of Legends client. It can be a YouTube video. It can be a Twitch stream. It can be, like the good old days. When you had no responsibilities, you sit on your PC, like ask yourself the question, what would you have done there? And that's basically what I do. If I feel like firing up a different game, I do that. Very rarely, I don't play any other game, but I'm thinking of like, for example, TFT or Hearthstone, like just, I call them non-committal games in the sense that you don't have to commit an obscene amount of time to get good at them. You can just be average and still have fun. I feel like a lot of games nowadays you have to be very good at in order to have fun. Like I can't see myself playing Valorant, for example, and having fun. I'm actually good at the game.
Yeah.
I feel the same way. I don't play most online games anymore or multiplayer games because I'm like I can't enjoy being shit, and so I need to like hit a baseline level and then you're like, I don't want to put the time in, so then you don't do it at all.
Are you playing much TFT this set?
I haven't played much, but more than nothing, I have a good understanding of set. I've been following. I enjoy watching TFT streams. And other than that, and obviously I have a significant other, so I spend time with her. That's still a part of my free time, of course.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, sometimes it's just, I know you guys get such little free time, and I don't think a lot of fans understand how little time you guys have to actually chill, especially during the regular season. So I think it's nice that you guys are, or that you're figuring out a way to like just make sure that your free time that you do have is quite nice. Do you watch any shows in particular? Is there any? Mark always likes to start the show by giving us the rundown of what he's been watching. And
you asked me about it, so I always answer.
It's his obsession. He can't start the show without that. So I'm curious if you have anything that you've been watching lately or that you really like.
We've been watching Spy X Family. I think it's really funny. It's really cute. I think it's been very pleasant so far. I was waiting for opportunities to watch it with my partner, and we've both very much loved it so far. So that's really nice.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of people talking about that. It is definitely an anime.
What do you think about Rent a Girlfriend? Did you see this?
I did not watch it. No.
Okay, so I haven't watched it either, but like we started like doing these player cards, like Get to Know Pro, and one of the questions that we asked, I don't know if you saw these, was like, what's your favorite anime? And Philip on FlyQuest answered, and he said Rent a Girlfriend. And then in the post-match thread, that's all anyone was talking. The number one upvoted comment is how they're glad that FlyQuest lost because Philip's favorite anime is Rent a Girlfriend. And everyone's like, I was a FlyQuest fan, now it's gone. I didn't know if anyone else had seen it.
No, I haven't. So I can't comment on that, but I think that's absolutely hilarious. It goes to show poor taste. It goes further than you expect.
Mark, did you look it up?
I didn't look it up, but like I had seen it on Crunchyroll, like scrolling around. I just assumed it's like a harem-esque anime. I mean, there's some pretty degen stuff out there. Ashley likes her fair share of degen stuff. She's watching High School of the Elite right now, which it's like it's got a plot that's pretty interesting as well, but it's also fan servicey.
I'm waiting to see if one of the pro players can slip through like a very adult anime. I feel like that would be hilarious because I I would not be surprised if the person who's collecting those cards and those answers doesn't watch anime and just like types them in. Like I don't know if anyone's doing any
what's
betting.
that hentai one? Bible Black or something? That was like a fucking isn't that maybe I'm the only one who knows this shit. Maybe I'm just outing myself as being a weirdo. Poco no Pico? Oh no.
But yeah, I feel like a bold pro player move should be to try to see if they can sneak past something from the
sensors. It would
sensors.
absolutely work. The only people who would catch that shit, I'm pretty sure, Emily or I. I think we're the only two weebs enough to notice.
Yeah. Somebody needs to sneak it by. And then just see what you can get past the LCS sensors, I think, on those player cards is a good idea. Anyway, okay, so there's obviously our little catch-up with Bwipo, but also there's some news that has hit this past week, or at least some things to talk about, right? Which is, we've only got one. So one, Mark, Jat said this on the broadcast, and it took me a moment to like realize it, because there's almost always 9 weeks of the LCS, but because they took the week off this split, there's only 2 more weeks. I kept being like, oh, we're in week 6, there's 3 more weeks. There's actually only 2 more weeks left of the LCS, which is insane to me, before we get into the non-regular season playoffs or whatever. So that just instilled a bit of panic in me as I realized how close we are to a bunch of stuff.
I think like, I don't know if it feels the same way that Bwipo as a player, but like the gap week, I think actually helped a lot with the doldrums, combined with the fact that it's 1 week shorter than last split. Like week 6, which is what just happened, doesn't feel like the typical week 6, where I think like fans and us on the broadcast at least start feeling burnt out. Like, oh God, this team, how do we tell their story? You know, it's like they've been like mid, you know, like how can we make this an exciting game between like 7th and 8th place in the LCS or something? And like, I don't feel like we've had that problem this split. I don't know if it also feels more enjoyable at this part of the season for you, Bwipo.
I mean, the thing that I find is that the week gave teams that are at the bottom of the standings a little bit more, you know, fire under their ass, if you will. You know, give them a chance to, you know, start to get going. I think Immortals actually used it the best. I actually think that they look much, much better coming into the second half of the split, as a bottom tier team, of course. And actually, their games are quite interesting, even though that, you know, you often have those teams. You know, you have BDS in Europe, you have still Dig here, in my personal opinion, especially with the fact that they basically blew up their roster and Soul River, which was the player to watch on that team. So I wouldn't say that there's no offenders of the I have no idea what to say here issue that sometimes the broadcast has, but it's definitely the fact that there's only 2 teams that I can think of in both leagues is a good sign.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad that you brought up the River stuff, because that is one of the conversation points I think this week. Maybe if somebody wants to call in with an opinion about Golden Guardians, about Dignitas or River or anything like that, that would be good. We always have the continuing conversation around TSM. Immortals stuff is pretty wild, as you mentioned. I don't know what their chances are. Mark, how likely is it that they can sneak into playoffs at this point in time? Because there's only 5 games left, but they're 1 game behind everybody. So,
I think it's pretty easy, or not easy, but like it's not unlikely, given that 8 teams make it in, and like they just beat Golden Guardians, who looked pretty terrible this weekend. Immortals is starting to look better. You know, like technically TSM is in already if like the season locked today.
Are they?
Yeah. Do you know it's 8, right? Do you know how playoffs works?
Yes, I do know. But it's funny because if TSM's in with 4 wins, I don't know how easy it is for Immortals to get in with 3. Do you see what I'm saying?
No. They're 1 game back, and there's 5 games to play. What?
Yeah, but you've already said that TSM's technically in, and so if Oh yeah. Okay, sorry, I misunderstood what you were saying. I thought you were saying like you said they're technically in, and then you said if they ended today, and I was like, technically in? That's very confusing to me. We figured it out. I'm very happy. Anyway, we've got a situation where CLG is tied for 3rd, which is fascinating to me. They're tied with Team Liquid. Does that make being tied for 3rd feel worse, Bwipo, that CLG's up there with you guys tied?
I mean, tied for 3rd equals 4th, so I think we did a great job.
Well, there's 3 of you that are tied for 3rd, so it could also mean 5th.
Damn.
Yeah.
I haven't looked at the standings. I'm not a believer in standings if you're not top 2. So like I was just like, I don't believe we're top 2. So I'm like, I haven't even looked at the standings. Like,
yeah.
All I care about is the next week trying to win.
I feel like if you were bottom 2 and not making into playoffs, you would definitely be a believer in standings. So it's maybe top 2 and bottom 2.
No, I agree with that. You do have to make the playoffs. That is, I will reiterate, you do have to make the playoffs. But once you're in, I feel like, it's do or die either way.
I wish we know that Bwipo didn't pay attention to standings. We could have just like gaslit him and be like, "Yeah, you guys are 7th right now, don't you know?"
Yeah. I would actually have double checked. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah. Dude, how does it feel to be on the verge of not making it into playoffs? Are you panicking right now?
You guys are 4 and 12.
I hope we don't have that conversation next week.
Oh God. Okay. So we could obviously talk. I think there's a pretty decent conversation we had around the CLG stuff. I also just think I might have said this last week, but I want to give hats off again to the broadcast because I continue to feel like it's doing really well. I've been feeling really optimistic about LCS lately as a product. So I think viewership is a lagging indicator of quality in some sense, but I'm hopeful that things start to take back off again soon. Is there anything that I'm forgetting, Mark, or Twitch chat for conversation topics for this week?
I have not seen anyone bring it up yet, so I'm going to try and bully a viewer to bring this topic up. Fudge's top lane ranking. We have Bwipo on now, so we can compare his thoughts on it. And no one's talking about it.
Where can we find that?
It was on the broadcast.
I know it was on the broadcast. I'm saying for the purposes of the show, speaking to it, since all of us memorized it from the broadcast, all 10 players, perhaps it would be good to have it.
It was on Saturday, I think before the 3rd game of the day.
Did the LCS account tweet it out?
They might have tweeted it out. I would hope someone tweeted it out.
Yes.
I'll try and find it so that it would be even better if whoever's calling in can just have the list ready to go, so I don't have to find it right now.
Yeah, that would be great. That's your mission. If everybody's always trying to get on the show, they're like, "Oh, I've tried." Now that people are back at the audio or at the LCS, people come up to Mark and I, and they're like, "I listen to the show every week," and then I'm like, "Have you ever been on?" And they're like, "I've tried." And I always feel very bad at that moment. So here's a freebie. Try to get on the show with conversation about
I think we promised like 3 or 4 people in person, like, oh yeah, we'll definitely take you.
Right.
And then no fucking way. Yes. Idiots.
Yes. So there's some Project L news that dropped today. I don't know if I haven't watched the video yet, but
me neither.
That's a thing. And then Misfits. I don't think we need to spend too much time talking about the Misfits stuff, but I'm just curious, Bwipo, what's been your reaction to seeing Misfits potentially leaving the LEC? Are you bummed? Are you sad? Do you care? What's your take?
Like, I don't care. Like, it's whatever. Like, I don't not care. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And it's like, oh, we'll see how. I guess I'll be bummed if Misfits leaves and then a worse org comes in, and I'll be happy if a better org comes in, because I feel like Misfits was very much a middle of the pack org, where it's like they didn't do anything special, but they weren't lagging behind, and it's like they used rookie talent for a very long time. At least it feels like a very long time to me. It's been a few. I'm trying to think here. How long has it been since I've started fielding rookie talent? 2019, I guess, right? 2020. Been 3 years since then. So if you think about it, they've tried their best to develop rookies, and I think they've succeeded in some cases. More often than not, they didn't, but they were playoff contenders. Like, I think they've made playoffs the majority of splits that I remember, and that's still something to be proud of, in my opinion.
Well, regardless, I guess folks can tune into awesome LEC shows to figure it out. Revenge just subbed and in all caps said, "Wow, Travis." I don't know what he's upset about, but we'll figure it out. One thing I want to mention, which I don't
think he's upset.
I might have a rough cut. Oh, he said, "Bwipo, great guest." Okay, this is what I meant. Fantastic. All right. Regardless, one thing I do want to mention is that I did a little bit of a different piece of content this past week at the LCS. I did something called LCS Surprise Test, a completely original concept that I came up with, where I surprised pro players with a test that they aren't expecting, and we see how they do. We compare them against each other. I feel like it's something that the LCS could really use, and hopefully other leagues are able to pick up. But I've just been informed just now that version 1 is exporting right now. So hopefully after Hotline League, if you guys stick around, maybe we'll do a little bit of a preview of the first version. You guys can give me feedback on the rough cut. But no, shout out to Shaka and the LEC crew for making a really cool piece of content. I want to see if I can steal it. But the great thing is that the first episode is about geography. And boy, do pro players not know where anything is. Anyway, that's the tease. Mark,
did you do Bwipo?
No,
Bwipo's not in that one.
Well, North American geography, I'm really bad. I don't know anything because I actually didn't learn it in school. I didn't get there. I dropped out before we cared about America, if you will.
No judgment.
My European geography is not that bad. My European geography, like the center of Europe, I have a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, I don't blame you not knowing American states or anything like that, but I do have to ask, do you know what California looks like? Like, could you like give an outline roughly if you were forced to?
Oh, you cut out. What was that?
I think so, yeah. Okay. I think I would be able to, roughly, like nothing special, but a general idea. Like how long it is, if you will, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
the shape of it, I know.
Not how long it is, but the shape of it. Gotcha. Okay. Revenge is in it though, so for people that want to see Revenge, they can check that out. Maybe afterwards. I'll ask my editor if it's in a good enough place for me to show the rough cut on stream. Either way, Mark, is it time to grab callers?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Off Mark goes to grab our first caller. Some shout out to some subs. Where are we? Adsev, Sekovitz, 9 Mile, Arsh G, That Baked Potato, Photo LOL, Aldrena Orange, Jammin TST, T Punisher, Acarn, Xypher, Prostar, Shonatonin for 47 months, Harry Nguyen, Mart Life, Cyber Healer, Bernie's Left Nut, Inuber, Inuber for 18 months, Revenge for 3 months, and then Rico Suave with the 47. Xypher is here. Xypher, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago. Are you going to semifinals?
Yes, I am.
Do you think Bwipo is going to semifinals?
The hope is that I get to see Bwipo, yes. I would like to meet him.
Okay.
The hope for everybody on the call, I think. I would love to see TL make it. But Xypher, what do you want to talk about on the show?
So Travis, you just touched on it, the whole Misfits selling their LEC slot. You talked about it on Rift Reaction, but possibly them buying an LCS slot with the money from the sale. Yes,
I did talk about that as a off the wall theory that had no. I caveated that I don't think that was a thing that I had heard at all. But it was just like a fun thought experiment.
Apologies, I pulled you for the question for Bwipo, not the Rift Reaction.
Sorry, yes, we didn't discuss.
I should have clarified. That's my bad.
Also, so then I also had a question for Bwipo. Bwipo, what's the difference between playing in NA for Team Liquid compared to playing in the LEC for Fnatic? Like, what's the core difference between NA and EU?
That's a good question. I mean, it's hard to put my finger on it because I don't think there's like a huge difference in terms of like. I think the competition's similar. You're still playing the same game, but I think that people are a lot more passive aggressive in Europe, if you will, and here things get hidden more. I guess it's like, let's put it this way: a great thought that came to mind that it happened that I compared it, but it was like. In Europe, if there was a champion that people didn't like, it would be like, you go into a draft meeting and someone's like, oh, I can pick this champion here. And then immediately you have someone go like, is there any chance we can pick something else? And you just know, this guy absolutely hates that idea. Like he hates playing with the champion. And generally speaking, like during scrims and stuff, this happen as well. And I feel like, at least here in DL, that doesn't really happen. People are more open about, I don't like this champion. For X and Y reason. Maybe this still happens in other teams, but this is something that I realized quite quickly. And I guess that's the biggest difference from what I can tell in terms of actual gameplay. For me, at least, coming into Fnatic in 2018, I did a lot of listening. in Spring Split because I was a rookie. I came in. All I really tried to accomplish was to listen to my teammates and see what they wanted to accomplish. So, you know, I would watch Hilly play, watch Caps play, watch Reckless play, watch Broxa play, watch Soas play even. I was just listening, trying to figure out like what looks like a good game for my team. Like what are they happy with during the game when their top laner does X or Y, when their jungler does this or that. And something that I learned is it made Hylissang very happy when people would group around him in the mid game, around mid lane, because then he could hard force initiation on the mid wave. He was very good at that as well. So it paid off when that happened. So a lot of my gameplay actually revolved around that. And the biggest difference between me playing in Fnatic and me playing in Team Liquid is I haven't really found someone with such a strong opinion of how the game should be played. And like, if you don't follow him, he's gonna run it down. It's like it's his way or the highway, if that makes sense. And I really respected that because that was something that resonated with me. I also agreed with him how to play the game, and I pushed for the same ideas. You know, when he was going on the mid wave doing his crazy stuff, I was always there with him. And when it looked bad, we looked back together because, you know, we both believed in that was the way to win. And I fully believe that's one of the reasons why in Best of Ones we surprised the hell out of some Asian, because, you know, we would not stop. It doesn't matter if we're behind 2 or 3k gold. We're still going to be on some mid wave at some point that murders some people somewhere, especially if you don't have flash. And I don't think I've found such a simple but effective formula here in TL, and that's something that I'm actively trying to pursue.
It's funny to hear that like the passive aggressive stuff feels different, or the feedback stuff feels different in NA, because 3 of the other 4 players on your team are from Europe, and so I would have thought maybe it's a thing where over time they've been transformed to the NA way of thinking. But
I mean, Santorin and Soren, or Lucas and Soren, have been here for a very long time. I think obviously there was a split in 2018 where Santorin was playing in H2K, I believe. I think that happened.
Santorin started in EU, came to NA, and then went back to EU. But I think the vast majority of his career has been NA.
Yeah. I think that's how it. But either way, like they're also mature players, so they're not inclined to do that. So it is different. You have to understand, like, you understand that that's not the best way to communicate after a certain point. And I'm not saying that, you know, just for some people this is just the way they communicate most efficient. You know, just to be passive aggressive, and dealing with that is a part of being a pro player.
I'd also say that you're not the first European player to say this, even on Hotline League. I'm pretty sure I've heard this a couple times about how, like, in EU, people are just far more blunt, and it just doesn't seem to bother them the way it might in NA, or if that people, like you said, just prefer to be less direct with their opinions. And it's definitely something I feel like has been talked about a lot, that like in Europe, if there's conflict with a team, like it will come to a head pretty naturally. Whereas sometimes in NA it festers and like takes a bit to like get actually resolved. Do you feel like that's, you said like competitively it doesn't feel that different. Like, do you think that's one of the reasons? Because I think anytime anyone has a successful EU player come to North America, there's always a like, what's different? What are they doing right over there? You know, I didn't know if you felt like that had a big impact on performance, or if it's just a difference.
I mean, it has a big impact on Best of Ones, I'll tell you that much, right? It's one of the reasons why I think NA, like, in EU, is like you go to Worlds, like it's really simple. You go through a Worlds bootcamp. At the end of it, like people have been put in their place by their own teammates. If that makes sense, you know, like if I'm jungling against the world's best, and back in like last year, for example, and you know I'm performing, and then I notice someone else on my team is not performing, and it's like, bro, you know, we're gonna draft for me, right? Yeah, we're good, cool, yeah, good. You know, like that's how it is. I don't know how it's gonna be. I don't know how it's going to be, assuming we make it, which I'm very confident that we will. I haven't missed the Worlds, and I think the conditions that we were in last year were far worse than the ones I have right now. My personal opinion. That means that, you know, I feel very confident that we're going to make it. It's just the way it is, you know. Back in 2018 at Worlds 2, it was pretty simple. It was like, we look at our options. In fact, there was a point where I even tried playing bot lane scrims in 2018 Worlds. It was not pretty. I was getting rolled, and it was just really quick, like, okay, we need Reckless. You know, like, Reckless has to play 100%, and then between me and Soaz, we're still determining, but I think in the end, my performance on Aatrox and Urgot was generally speaking better than Soaz, and these champions were really broken. So like it was just a mutual agreement of like we need the best performing players on those picks to play. That's just the way it is. Like, end of story. It's not a discussion. There's no energy wasted in even sugarcoating it. It's just like everyone's agrees. We just have to win.
There's oh, go ahead. Sorry.
And yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was just gonna ask. There's been kind of a prevailing thing over the years of people talking about like NA culture being too lazy or too passive, or people like there was even a call that we had, or like a Reddit thread or something like that back. Do you remember this Mark, in maybe 2018 or 2019, where people were like, oh, the players in LCS just get too caught up in like LA celebrity culture and Hollywood culture and all this stuff. Anyway, obviously I don't think that you guys are going out and partying with celebs every night, but do you feel like there is a cultural difference in terms of like grinding and life balance and all that stuff coming to NA and competing in the LCS?
Not really for me. I've maintained a very similar schedule as to what I would in Europe, which is controversial. Like I said, like for me, and this is me personally, like depending on what you're trying to get out of me as a player, you're going to see a very drastic difference in practice schedule. For me, consistency means playing very little. Because the habits that I build when I play a lot always include contesting the opponent. Like when I'm playing a lot of League of Legends and I'm always playing, I contest people all the time in solo queue. I contest people all the time in, champions queue, scrims. It doesn't matter. Consistency for me is built by staying away from taking risks, whereas it's something that I do very naturally when I'm playing a lot. So that's why you'll notice at the start of this split, I played very little, and I tried to be very consistent in my champion picks and very consistent in how I played, and very few risks. Whereas as of right now, I think halfway through the split, I feel like I want to be able to, mix and match, see what's best for my team, and I've been trying to, take a few more risks and I guess go more to what used to work for me, being a bit of a spicier player, if you will.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Hey, Xypher, do you feel like Bwipo answered your question?
Yes, he answered it.
Awesome. Well, hey, is there anything that you want to shout out before we go on to a quick break?
Shout outs to Alienware, shout outs to Grubhub, and shout outs to players. Amazing series. Definitely not talked about enough.
Agreed. Thank you so much for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
Thank you.
Minor correction. I realized I flipped. Twitch chat called me out that I flipped who I said was being more passive aggressive, EU or NA, which I think is interesting because that means I've heard the opposite before. Wait, it depends on your teammates.
I've heard NA is more passive aggressive. Were you saying
that's what I had heard? And that Twitch chat said that I got it wrong, and Bwipo was saying that his EU teams.
That's not my experience. But I've only been on this TL line. People are generally that people deal with their frustrations personally. I feel like in our team, like if something bothers them, they'll just deal with it themselves and then come back the next day. That's just my personal experience playing on the team right now. Whereas on other teams, like very much more, you could feel the tension much earlier. Let's put it that way, because obviously, in every team, tension will start to build when you get to playoffs. You make it to playoffs. You're in that hotel room. Because obviously you're going to an event. You're in a hotel room. You're scrimming. The scrims don't go well. That's when shit hits the fan. It always does. It's always in the hotel rooms, ladies and gentlemen. It really gets rough in those when you're all you've been together for a day or two. You've been scrimming in the same room, sitting next to each other for 14 hours. That's when really it gets heated. But generally speaking, I feel like at least in this team, I think people are much more composed than in my prior teams. Funnily enough, I am too. Like when I was in Europe, like I had my moments where I got really angry, and I haven't had that yet. Actually, I had that yesterday. Funny.
Oh shit!
Wait, were you were really angry?
Yeah, there was something I was really passionate about. It's not necessarily about like anger. It's just more like you're very passionate about something and you really feel like you're asked to do this to win. So you get that point across the best you can. It's like we have to do this. We have to play in this certain way. Like, or I expect this from you. you need to be able to provide this and do this. And I think that in Europe, expectations are being put more clearly on average, I would say. Like, at least on this team, I think expectations of our players, both from the players and the staff, is something that we can work on, and it's something that we have identified and are working on. Just it took a little bit too long. I think in Europe that it happens much more naturally, where it's like from scrims already, you know, it's basically determined who's going to be the dog and who's going to follow, you know. Like, if you look at any team I've been a part of, at least, it's been very clear. We've had a very clear hierarchy start to finish, pretty much all the teams I've played on in Fnatic. And I think that hasn't happened.
Quick question.
TL here.
Quick question for you. Were the squad cameras rolling when you had this very passionate moment? No?
They usually are not. No,
they usually are not. This is what we need.
They weren't either.
Team
of course,
Liquid.
That's what everyone wants to see, but like, it's you know, it's also harder to really speak your mind and say what you believe in when you know you're on camera.
Yeah. So what you're saying is they need to hide the cameras and then put it out that way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. That's basically what Pete did to me when I said Licorice was trash at 2018 Worlds. Like, I had no idea he was recording, and I was like, dude, why is everyone hyping this guy up? He's an absolute clown.
And then you slapped him in game. You backed it up though.
2 weeks later. No, that was after the game. That's the thing. Like, I trashed.
Oh, it was after.
Yes. This is like, I was like, wait, why is everyone hyping this guy up? This guy was like trolling. Like, I couldn't believe it. It was so bad. And then that was just I just came off stage. I just made it to World Finals. I was on some serious dopamine, you know.
Yeah.
And then a week and a half later, I opened my Twitter and I'm getting added by a million people. Like, wow, what a disgusting attitude to have. He wins the match and he trash talks. He should have trash talked before the game. And I'm just like, holy moly, what just happened? And then I look at the video, I'm like, Pete, you mother. God damn it. And then I was like, whatever, you know, it's whatever. I don't mind. I don't care. But obviously, like, and this is the funny thing, like, any and every team, and this is a fact, talk shit behind the scenes. There's not a single player. Like, there's not, like, I'll give you an honest example. You know, I've chatted shit about Fudge before. No shame. Straight up. I was just like, this guy, he's trolling. What is he even trying to do? Like, I don't even know what he's trying to do. Like, that's the type of vocabulary you use, you know, to describe a play. Like, in scrims, for example, I'm just like, what the hell is that guy even smoking? What is he even trying to accomplish? I don't even know. Like, that's the type of vocabulary you use. Like, it's just the way it is. But if I really think about it, I do think he's a good player. It's just sometimes he does things that make me go like, why is he even getting paid?
Yeah.
And I'm sure other players have this about me too, you know, where it's like, they look at me and they're like, well, this guy's smartest. Like, guy's a genius, and then the other half of the time they're like, why is this guy even getting paid?
Yeah.
I mean, I just say let it rip these days, you know. We need the spice. I feel like it's so funny because people will say that stuff all the time, even like the analyst desk. I mean, we're not even players, we shouldn't, but like, you just watch shit sometimes and you're like, oh my fucking god, what was that? And then, like, you know, your camera start rolling and you're like, yeah, that top play could have been played better, I think, you know. Something you're going to be VOD reviewing later.
That's the special. Because the thing is, like, the thing about talking trash in League is it's hard to commit to talking trash because it's hard to determine how well someone will perform any given day or draft. And that's the thing, you know, like, all the best, like, let's say top 4 and LCS, top 4 and LEC, or even at the bottom teams, you know, like BDS actually had some good showings against G2. You know, who knows? Imagine you're G2 and you talk trash and then they crap on you. Then you just look like an absolute donkey. That feels bad, you know? Like, that's not worth it. That's not worth the mental damage you're doing to yourself, you know? And it really takes thick skin to keep talking.
But the viewership might be worth the mental damage you're doing to yourself, Bwipo. And that's really what we're here for. By the way, we're gonna slide into an Alienware spot here, but I do want to just mention Dhokla, before he came on the show, had acted as though, speaking of mental damage, that watching the show gave him mental damage. And yet I consistently have seen him in the Twitch chat ever since he was on the show, and he showed up again just now. And so clearly whatever happened while he was here converted him into a weekly viewer of Hotline League, and I appreciate that. So shout out to Dhokla. Let's Mark, you were going to say something?
I was just going to say, I feel like what happens is the only way to recover from the mental damage is to watch it be incurred upon someone else. See, after Bwipo is finished dealing with takes from Twitch chat and stuff, he'll have to watch whoever's next to get attacked or deal with the community.
Yeah, no, it's true. All right, let's talk about Alienware. Shout out to Alienware for sponsoring the show. So there's been an important change in the nature of my partnership with Alienware. We've been working with them since the end of 2018. And for the first time ever, there's a really cool thing that has occurred. And I want to thank all of you guys for helping over the past week a month and a half, I think, as I've been asking for your help on this. But officially from here on out, if you, at least if you're in North America, I don't know, it might work also outside of it. But if you go and you click the Alienware link and you make a purchase through the Alienware link on the Alienware or Dell website, my Alienware link specifically, the one that's in the YouTube link, a portion of what you purchase will now go back to Travis Gafford Industries. So this is a really cool thing that they've started to do with me. It's been something we've been talking about doing for a while, and it's a really awesome thing because obviously they've given a great deal of support to us in the past, but I've had people in the past that have, people who watch the show, who are, watching the interviews or whatever, watching my content. They want to make sure that like I'm getting credit for their purchase or whatever. Sometimes people think that maybe I'm getting a cut of their purchase. Well, for the first time ever, it's official. We did the deal. It's all signed up. Everything's good. So if you are thinking about getting an Alienware PC, I'm begging you to use my link when you do. Because it actually, if enough of you guys, we have some data around how many of you use my code to purchase an Alienware computer, and it's very awesome. So many of you guys do. That is actually very helpful as well at tracking this stuff. The code doesn't always work on some of their newer stuff, and so this is a really cool way where if enough of you guys that are using the code also start using the link when you purchase it, it could be pretty meaningful for Travis Gafford Industries, and we can invest that money into doing things like maybe another surprise test video or some of these special projects that we don't always get a chance to do. So thank you to Alienware for making that happen. First time this has ever happened. You'll probably hear me keep talking about it for a while because I want to make sure people know to please purchase through that link that's in the YouTube description. But yeah, thank you to Alienware for making this happen. It's awesome to have their support, and that's a really cool program that they've started to do with me. So looking forward to more of that in the future. Thank you to speaking of some subs, Rico Suave, Ari Waddle, Pride, Tan of Beast, Avura, I'm Not Salty, and Fishy for the subs. Really appreciate it. Mark is grabbing the next caller right now, and he is back with the caller, who is none other, speaking of sponsors, none other than Steve, who helps us with the Grubhub stuff. So first off, thank you, Steve, for helping to make the Grubhub sponsorship happen. But let everyone know where you're calling in from.
I am calling in from the suburbs of Detroit in Michigan.
Suburbs of Detroit. And before anybody thinks that you just have to sponsor the show to get on, Steve's actually been watching. You've watched the show for a long time, I think, before our sponsorship came through. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been watching your show since LCS franchising started back when I worked at 5 Hour, when it was, CLG and FlyQuest that I was working with on sponsorships. So I was like engaged in the space, and your show was one of the gateways into League of Legends for me.
To awesome, counter Travis as well, you can also just sponsor the show and I'll bring you on. It's cool that Steve has the street cred, but you don't fucking need it. We'll bring anyone who throws some money at us on.
Well, regardless, what do you want to talk about on the show tonight, Steve?
I think a couple of people, like the first person talked about it, and then you guys also talked about it with like shows like Players and Arcane, and then we have like Project L coming out, and then some news about the League MMO started up. Do you think that like the League MMO will help get people into traditional League of Legends because they're going into the ecosystem, or do you think people are just going to be like completely ingrained in that MMO and then forget the actual league?
Yeah, so I kind of like this take a bit, because it's kind of, obviously there's been a lot of conversation around the League of Legends MMO. We don't know when it's going to come out or if it will ever come out, but it is an interesting question of like, is there a world where people, if the game is good enough and people want to play it all the time, would they perhaps stop playing League? I already see a bunch of people in the chat saying leaving League. Palafox says, I'm quitting League when the MMO comes out. So if it comes out soon, then perhaps CLG is going to have to figure something out. But no, I mean, it is an interesting kind of question. Bwipo, would you continue to play League of Legends when the League MMO comes out? What if there's a thriving esport around it?
There's not a single person that has played MMOs enough that says that they would quit League straight up. They would quit it for a month or two, maybe 3, and then the content would dry up in the MMO, and guess what you're going to do? Go back to League of Legends. That's just a fact. Anyone that's played an MMO for real and committed to playing an MMO knows that content dries up. It doesn't keep coming out. There's always a big patch. That's what makes an MMO successful, right? Is the fact that there's a big content patch. It's awesome. Everyone loves it. They grind the living hell out of it. And then 3 months later, it's like, well, I guess we're waiting for next patch, and everyone migrates to a different game for a while.
But what if the League MMO was the hub of all the League Riot games? You use your avatar to log into the MMO, which then explains what you're doing in traditional League of Legends. You can play Runeterra in it, and you could also play TFT. They could effectively create a metaverse of all the League stuff in one client. I doubt it. You could do something crazy.
That would look cool, but in the end, you're still playing League of Legends if you log into the MMO. Just because it looks cooler, it doesn't mean that you're not playing League of Legends. Like, sure, that would look awesome and that would be great, but the fact is sure, I think first things first. Yes, if a League MMO comes out and people start playing it and the content dries up, which it inevitably will. I haven't heard of an MMO where content infinite and interesting. It's either infinite and it gets boring really fast, or it's limited and it's very good. I haven't heard of content like, for example, what's that game called? No Man's Sky, I think is what it's called. Like, everyone was like, "Oh my god, best game ever," and then like 5 planets later, they're like, "Holy shit, this is so boring."
Everything was the same. Yeah,
it made a comeback.
Yeah, it sure did, and that's what I'm saying. Like, I'm not saying it's impossible. It's just the bar is set incredibly high in order to do that. And my personal opinion is people will get attracted to the universe, to the lore, to whatever, just like with Hearthstone. Like, people played World of Warcraft, Warcraft 3, Warcraft before that, then World of Warcraft, then Hearthstone, and they explored. Like, one of the reasons why Heroes of the Storm never really worked for me is because my favorite Warcraft universe heroes weren't playable yet. Like Garrosh and Varian, I was a warrior player. A surprise to no one, weren't available as characters, and I thought that was a huge bummer because I thought Garrosh and Varian fucking awesome, Like, I thought they were some of the coolest characters in any game, and the fact that I couldn't play them in Heroes of the Storm just meant that I wasn't interested. And that's something that, in the League MMO, that's something that will attract me. What attracts me about League is the characters, and if I'm not going to see them in the MMO or interact with them in any way that I think is awesome, that I'm not going to want to, that I'm going to lose interest really quickly. I will give it a try, and I might even love it even if they're not there, but that's for me like a very important thing when I'm playing games. A lot of the champions I enjoy playing are because of the character, like the aesthetics around the champion, the way they interact in the game. That holds a lot of weight for me, and that's why ultimately that's going to be awesome for 2, 3, maybe 4 months, depending on how difficult the content is. But I would never estimate that content will never dry up and people will quit League of Legends straight up forever. Will they quit it for 2 or 3 months? Sure. But like straight up quit it for that MMO?
What about things like PvP and Arena? Because there's also esports for MMOs.
Sure.
Do you think you don't think it's going to cannibalize itself at all?
No, I don't think so. Like I said, I think that balance patches are a big thing here, where it's like there's very few people that are so committed to PvP that they would re-roll different specs and different characters who have success in PvP. Like, there's some patches where your class is ass. Like, let's be real. World of Warcraft, like, I played Arena. I wasn't spectacularly high. I was like 2,500 what was my peak. Majority of the time I was having fun around 2,000 to 2,300. And I got there playing Kid Cleave. It was Feral, Warrior, Holy Paladin. And my comp, just like, at some point it was just like, well, if we want to really push to get higher, we're going to have to re-roll, like, playing Rogue, a Mage, Priest. Obviously, you don't have to. But, or one of us is going to have to re-roll Warlock so that we can play a different comp and Resto Shaman. The point is in PvP, people have to commit to rerolling in order to actually get success playing. And that's really frustrating in my opinion. I'm not committed enough to reroll a different class unless I'm playing for fun. But if I'm rerolling a class to win, that's a very different story. So I don't think that if there's a PvP system that the balance will be so perfect that every class can be equally strong and that we will all, go into this glorious blah yada yada after, like, whatever, like, it's just not going to happen. There's going to be classes that are OP that are frustrating as hell, and people are going to want to play a different game because they get rolled by it every single day, and at some point it gets boring getting one shot in a deep freeze. We've all been there.
Well, I know that Mark brought up the idea of if the MMO would, or address kind of the idea of if the MMO would caramelize the game, League of Legends, but I'm kind of curious on the other side of Steve's take. Is there any world in which we think the MMO could perhaps grow League by bringing in more people? And I guess I'm really curious. I wonder, we'll never know, but I'm really curious how much Arcane gave a boom, I guess a boop, to the to League itself, and how many more people are playing League because of Arcane. Does anybody have any ideas?
I haven't heard it talked about very much. The biggest boop I heard talked about was the COVID boop, but I haven't heard about an Arcane one.
Gotcha.
I think a lot of people just fucking watched Arcane. Like I troll fantasy subreddits, and like I follow YouTubers, book top people and stuff, and all of them watched Arcane, and they were all like, "Yo, that shit was awesome," but none of them installed League. They just accepted it was a good story. So I don't know.
Yeah. So I think it's it. I think League is the only time, League and TFT are the only time where I felt like there was a pretty big move between these game modes, or that people who have like the League clients or like League already installed, they would try TFT because it almost felt like an extension of League. But I guess especially given our conversation. By the way, shout out to everybody who told Kobe to close his door. He just closed it. I guess I would say that I don't anticipate there being much movement, so maybe nothing to worry about, Steve, if that makes sense.
Oh, not worried. I just thought it'd be a good thing because people like the lore and the stories, and like Arcane gave that, and then the show Players gives another example of it, because even if you don't know LCS, you could watch Players and understand it. I mean, there's people who don't watch football but watch Hard Knocks, and you understand the drama and what's going on with it, and I think that is what helps. That's the stuff that helps build viewership.
Yeah. No, that's fair. Anything you want to shout out, Steve? I have an idea.
I mean, Alienware for sure.
Okay.
Love that. I mean, your new deal sounds amazing.
Thank you. Yeah.
And obviously, Grubhub, please and thank you. Use the codes when we have them. Support the LCS broadcasts, all that fun stuff. So.
Yeah, and I'm glad you like the deal, because if you ever feel like replicating it, I'm down to do that in our partnership as well. Thanks, Steve, and we'll catch you next time.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah. All right. Mark is off to grab the next caller. Thank you to No Foolin for 6 months. I really appreciate it. And Mark should be back here shortly with the next caller. In fact, I just got reminded to pull something up. I'm really excited for Worlds in North America this year. It's actually so cool, guys. I've been thinking about it a lot recently, and we're starting to actually plan for Worlds. And so I just wanted to say things are popping. Jackie is calling in. Jackie, where are you calling from?
North America.
North America. Okay. For a second, I thought you might be the commissioner trying to sneak onto the show, but I don't believe you are.
It's a hell of a voice modifier.
Yes. Also, North America, very wide net that you're casting. What do you want to talk about on the show?
The take Mark pulled me for is kind of a layup one about Fudge's top lane rankings, which I think obviously a couple of them were kind of memes, but a lot of them were just way off, I think. And he also has maybe a little bit overinflated sense of his own ability to play the game, but this is sort of a layup, so I'll let Mark take it, or Bwipo.
Well, I don't know, Bwipo, did you see the segment?
Yeah, I saw the list.
Okay, cool. So I posted in Skype in case you needed a refresher as well. But there was obviously some memery going on, but I didn't know. What was your thoughts on seeing this?
I'll be honest with you, top 4 is what I'm looking at. Flip around Impact someday with me, Fudge. I think you've got it fine.
Well, so we should say what top 4 are. It's number
so
1.
So 1 is Fudge. I'm second. Third, fourth, Impact Sunday equal, and then you the rest. And like the rest is like, you know what? Sure, we can talk about it, but I think putting Impact and Sunday on 3 and 4 is a bit egregious. To be fair with you, they performed significantly better at most points and generally better most of the time. At least this and last split. In the past, I'm not 100% sure. I'm not 100% sure about last year how Fudge compared to them, but I would say Impact Sunday 1 and 2. The arguments for which you put where, I'll leave that up to the people that want to argue that. But I think it's fair to put them 1 and 2, and I think you can make arguments for either. And then 3, 4 is probably me and Fudge anyway. So that's like the rest is like Philip 5. Sure, if he thinks Philip is doing well, that's fine. When I scrim against Philip, I'm confused half the time and not in a good way. Yeah, he's tried playing Gangplank and the Gwen rework against me like multiple times. It's a staple matchup people play in the past, and every time he plays it, I get more and more confused.
He gets further away from
I don't know what's going on, but that's just an example. But in general, he hasn't impressed me ever personally, so I would never put him on 5. Revenge on 7, Licorice 6, like fine. Dhokla 8, 9. For me, it's like Revenge, Licorice, Dhokla. You can make an argument for any of those going up or down. I think Dhokla is definitely not 8, 9 personally. I think he's more of a 5, 6. And then Licorice, Revenge, like it's like like whatever, like sure, like put him where you want. I don't think anyone's gonna like. That's kind of the sad part. Where it's like I don't think anyone's gonna like passionately defend those players in the sense of like put them higher. I feel like
the only one I disagree on is Revenge. Revenge is doing really well, and I feel like he's really poorly ranked on a terrible team.
I thought people have a higher opinion of Dhokla.
Dhokla is doing pretty well too. So putting him on 8, 9, like you just said that the only thing you agree with or disagree with is Dhokla.
Actually, that's not true. I actually have Dhokla. I have Dhokla over Fudge too. I think Fudge is basically like Bwipo but bad. I think he is coasting really hard off of having the second best North American jungler ever, probably the second most accomplished North American mid laner ever, and again, Berserker is absolutely cracked. I think Fudge is just kind of a really unimpressive version of Bwipo, which makes sense why you would put Bwipo second because they're so similar, but Fudge just does not have it, I think.
I mean, sure, if that's your opinion. I think he's still 4th. I still think he plays, like from what I can tell at least, I think he plays solid League of Legends. Obviously, like it's impossible for me to look at this list and not consider scrims, right? Like I'm playing against the players on a daily basis, weekly basis, and I'm not understanding what's going on, right? Like I get to understand their thought process. The champions they use also is something you factor into account. Like if I don't like someone's counters or the way they play them, I'm always going to rate them lower. But I don't think Fudge is a worse player than Revenge, Dhokla.
Here's the counter argument, Bwipo. You only get a chance to play against Fudge in the game on stage, whereas like our callers, they can actually watch the game from like a third party situation and really see everything that's happening. So I think they're in a better position than you are to understand.
Okay, wait.
I do have.
Hold on. Travis is memeing, but Bwipo, do you watch every game in the LCS, or do you just?
I try to watch most of the games. Yeah.
Okay. Because some pros don't.
I don't watch all of them like religiously. Like for me to watch all games religiously, I watch. Sorry, Corey's just walking back and forth.
He's fucking with you.
But I don't watch all games religiously to a T. I have a general idea of what's going on and what happens, but I wouldn't say that I'm like nitpicking every decision. Mm-hmm. Usually, you go to the studio. You go 2 games in advance, so you get to watch the first 2 games before you. You banter with what happens on your screen with your team. That always happens. That's where I get most of my intel, and then obviously when we have to play against a certain team, I like to have a general idea of how they play, but I don't, personally at least, I don't spend a lot of time watching. Like I don't spend a lot of time reviewing the enemy team. I try to just have a general idea of how their players play and what I need to be paying attention to for myself.
So I had 2 follow-ups quickly. One, I think you giving Fudge respect makes a lot of sense, considering both you guys on Saturday went for like the 0-4 get slammed, but team winning on the other side of the map strat that like Impact also won with. It seems like the new meta. How does it feel playing top?
Impact, like honestly, Impact lived up to his ranking lived up to his ranking. Like he was number 1 in the running it down strat. That was impressive. To be fair. Like I went 0-4 and I called it a day. He went 1-8 and he kept going. Like that is respect right there. No, jokes aside, so, like I think it happens sometimes. You know, sometimes you just your team is really far ahead and your job is literally to do nothing. Like you're just supposed to group with your team, don't die, and it's hard to be in that state of mind at all times. Like I think that's actually one of the hardest things to do as a weak side top laner is like having the presence of mind to recognize like, oh, I have to do nothing right now. Like I shouldn't do anything. That is the hardest part about playing weak side, I think. And then when you fall behind, when you're supposed to contribute to your team's victory, recognizing I'm strong enough to contribute compared to the enemy top laner.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it can happen, like once you fall behind, it's hard to come back in those games because your team has incentive to help you because they're taking everything on the map anyway. So that's when it gets kind of tough to stop the grief.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely down for free rides. I won an ARAM game by telling the other, like the person recognized me. I asked them to surrender, and they just surrendered, and I was like, I take those, So I would love to be weak side. The other thing is the Philip angle is so interesting to me because everything I've heard about this kid, like behind the scenes, was like not positive. Not like bad. Not like he's
kid. The way you're describing this kid.
Wait, is he like
child
19? How old is this? How old is Philip Fly? He's like 19, isn't he?
Yeah, bro. But yeah,
he's
that's
20.
an adult.
Right, I'm 30. I'm 31. I can call him kid, can't I? I got
America, he could
him.
enlist in the military and pick up a gun.
Yeah, but he couldn't buy a beer. So there you go.
That's why he's a kid.
Yeah. But like when he was coming on the team replacing Kumo, people were like, don't get too hyped on him. Like we think this is a culture fit. He has the ability to grow and improve a lot. And then he started doing really well in LCS. But behind the scenes, I heard people being like, he's getting slammed in scrims. I don't know what's going on stage. Like he's not this good, but he's doing well on stage. And now it's you saying it again too. And I'm like, what? This is like the exact opposite of what you normally hear. Is like, oh, this person's like really good in scrims, but they're kind of running it on stage. And for him, it's like the exact opposite. Like, what do you think it is that is making him, like, if you could try and project, maybe you don't know anything, and that's fair, but like, what is it about some people that they can like kind of make that jump from like, oh, I'm playing on stage and now I'm better than I was all week in scrims where I was getting these counter picks and Bwipo was laughing at me after scrims?
I mean, I think like the biggest thing, how aggressive people play and how much you're getting tested mechanically definitely depends on scrim stage. In scrims, sometimes players are playing insanely aggressive, forcing like every angle they can find on constant. Like that contrast between on stage where people are playing a little bit smarter, they're not taking every risk, they're not taking every trade, they're not taking these as many risks at least. It's a very huge contrast because you're tested on every single decision you make, every single micro movement you make, all the way to, like you slip up here and there. People take your slip up as maybe the jungler's there. And I think people looking at their own play more closely and not playing as aggressively and taking every opportunity they can find, I think is the biggest.
Well, thank you, Jackie, for the call. Anything you want to shout out before we go on to the next caller?
Yeah, shout out to Revenge and Jose Dioto for a lot of improvement this split, and shout out to Jojo Pune, who is going to be the first mid laner to win Worlds in his rookie year since Faker. And shout out to you guys.
I'm excited for that. Anyway,
Bwipo, was that a laugh or did you almost throw up? I couldn't tell.
Oh wait, there was one thing I wanted to say about.
I'll leave it up to interpretation.
Fudge made a comment about Bwipo's play while he was on the broadcast, and I wanted to talk about that. Do you have a second?
Yeah, sure, go for it.
He was talking about when Bwipo matched the invade that TSM pulled. It was a 4v5, and he was talking about how he would never do that and how lane focused he is. And my kind of follow-up question is that, like, if Fudge is so lane focused, then why doesn't it show up in his stats? Like, we spent the entire weekend watching him get stuffed on Gwen while C9 won around him. Like, where is he?
Being lane focused doesn't necessarily mean you have to win your lane. Lane focus can also mean that you just want a stable situation. So, Fudge, one thing that I respect, this is something that, to give you a little bit of context, Nemesis did incredibly well. The champions he played were very weak early game, but he did not make it seem like the champions were weak because he was incredibly stable on the picks. So he would play a champion like Kassadin in matchups where other people would struggle, he would go even. I think that is something that Fudge does well, and that is something that him being lane focused, I think that translates into that aspect. He's very stable on a scaling pick. That said, he was not very stable on his Gwen, so I get what you're trying to say. I had that experience too. I bonked him on the forehead with my Olaf. But my point is creating that, creating a situation where you're suddenly destabilized from level 1 straight up. That is not something a lot of players will take as a risk, but I'm down, bro. Like, enemy jungler's pissed. Like, enemy team's pissed. They walk into red buff, they see me show up, they're like, what the? Enemy top laner is that good? It's like, hell yeah.
Jackie, quick question. Are you by any chance diabetic?
I'm not. Why do you ask?
Oh, well, because you hate Fudge so much, so I just assume. Either way, thank you for the call, and we will catch you next time.
I mean, I think he's good. All right, see you guys.
Yeah, I could tell.
Yeah, it definitely convinced me that he thought he was good by the end of that call.
I was not ready for that one, but it was a good one.
This is the mental damage that Dhokla was talking about.
Okay. All right. Thank you to Nuclei for the 5 gifted subs, and Sportsnut for the 7, No Foolin for the 6 months. Really appreciate it, everybody. Oh, and Wicked Empire, thank you for the Prime as well. All right. Dhokla says true in the chat. I have met Ben, Tim Diaz. I have met Ben. In fact, one of his college or his school folks works with me from back in college. Numiii is here. Numiii, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Southern California.
Southern California. And for those that don't know, Numiii called in at the end of last week's episode to talk about how she was a relatively new viewer to the LCS and felt like this year was a great year to be coming into the LCS as a fan. I was really excited about all the narratives. And then also you had mentioned you were going to go to the LCS for the first time this past weekend. So you went. What did you think, I guess, before we get into your take? Or maybe that is what your take is.
Yeah, I can just give a quick summary. I didn't know what to expect for the real life event, and then on top of that, it was the Star Guardian event on top of that. So I just thought it was really fun. A lot of the booths were doing Star Guardian themed stuff. I went alone personally, but the people I talked to were really friendly. The staff was really friendly on all the teams. I thought it was you could get around very quickly. The food was affordable. I was actually really surprised about that. The concession stand was affordable. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time. And I can get into my take if we want to talk about that.
Go for it.
Yeah, so the take I wanted to make was the Star Guardian event that we had this weekend was more engaging for real life LCS viewers, but it wasn't utilized enough for online viewers. I think one way to make the biggest hype event of the year for League even more special is probably maybe like a hashtag campaign or like a community collaboration, just so online viewers can interact with this event. I felt like it was more passive watching as a viewer versus an active experience being at the studio watching it live or watching it in front of me, etc.
See, I can already tell you're becoming more and more an LCS fan because you're becoming more and more critical of the LCS. Last week you called in, everything's so positive.
Praise. Second week, flaming our ass.
Okay.
Bwipo, did you get to experience the Star Guardian stuff at all, or was it just like game day for you? And did you notice any difference on Saturday? He's muted. No, wait a minute.
No, I shouldn't.
No, you're good. You're good. I trolled you. Sorry.
No, it's fine. I double checked. I didn't get to experience any fun stuff about Star Guardian, other than I got a poster which had a Star Guardian RA code in it. That was.
Oh yeah, I have mine and I haven't used it, and I think they expire really quick, so I need to actually use it.
They expired today.
Oh,
I think it's on. I have it in front of me. It says August 1st. I don't know if that's through August 1st or today.
Oh god.
Oh.
Okay.
Yikers.
Well, I need to figure that out. Anyway, Yeah, so not only were viewers at home not able to experience Star Guardian, but even the LCS players competing on stage were not able to experience any of the Star Guardian event. Complete failure from the Riot broadcast. That's my take. They should have had... G2 had their players dressed up, I believe, or had members of their organization dressed up as Star Guardians, I believe.
Yeah, and I'm sure the LAC broadcast was the one who did that and not the G2 organization, right, Travis? If anything, you should be flaming Team Liquid.
Honestly,
why didn't they dress Bwipo up as his favorite Star Guardian?
Urgot? What? Kind of hard, bro. Kind of hard.
Okay, so, but I think this raises a pretty good point, is that there was kind of like a themed week for the LCS, but there was not as much to do around it other than... What, Mark, help me, what did happen on the broadcast that wasn't just related to the tailgate that was Star Guardian themed?
I mean, so the top of the day, everyone was in like their kind of Star Guardian outfit, but not really Star Guardian outfit. You know, they were all like in the academy look, like pre-transformation, like
Captain Flowers was wearing a bright summer button-up T-shirt.
He was intentionally trying to break the trend. Like, and he wasn't about that life. Okay. But yeah, there wasn't very much that was like hard about cosplay, and I know that was a contentious point a little bit. I think a lot of the casters wanted to go harder on cosplay. I know you know that.
I know that because I've heard, but I that was not why I brought it up. I was talking about, like, legitimately, I thought there was a thing where maybe I had missed something on the broadcast, or maybe you guys had done like a Star Guardian quiz, or you'd talked about your favorite Star Guardians, or there was a Star Guardian moment, or Porter Robinson showed up and played a live rendition of Star Guardians Are All of Us.
Yeah, you missed that, dude? What the fuck? You didn't see Porter Robinson? Maybe you should watch the fucking broadcast. What'd you ask me about this weekend? You texted me something. And
I messaged you about a meme that was from the broadcast that I missed because I spend half the show outside waiting for pro players to come out because they all have features interviews for some reason. The weekend
you're going to criticize a broadcast you don't even watch, dude.
I didn't criticize the broadcast. I was just asking a legitimate fact-finding question in both of these situations to a friend who works on the broadcast.
I'm done trolling. There wasn't a ton. And I think, to Numii's point, I think a lot of us would have wanted to do a little bit more as well. There was, in Countdown, a Star Guardian draft, which I thought was actually a really cool idea. It was like you had to do a draft, but only using Star Guardians, and there's actually 25 of them. So it's like you had the 5 bands, 10 bands for each, then the champions. So, you know, you had to go through 20 to 25, and like it was actually pretty funny to see them try and make real comps and stuff. I thought that was really cool, but I think there was definitely more things to be done involving the Star Guardian stuff. There was some anime stuff I know we did. Like, it came out on socials, and I don't know if it ran during the piece, but there was stuff about who's your favorite Star Guardian skin. We asked a lot of pros that. I know during the commercial breaks, they ran a lot of the Star Guardian promotional pieces that have come out over the years. So like a lot of the music and like kind of like the more passive watching experiences had, I think, a lot of Star Guardian stuff, but I don't think it necessarily translated actively onto the screen as much.
I guess they could have done like you know how it's like who's winning draft? They could have done like a live spam your Star Guardian in chat or something like that. But I don't know. I mean, I think Numiii, like, I am all about criticizing the broadcast, especially the analyst desk and the analysts themselves. But in this situation, I feel like because the theme is born out of something that's in the game, I almost kind of feel like it's okay for the LCS fans to be able to like have that interactivity occur via the game versus needing to be a part of it. Like if they had like a theme week that was, I don't know what a good example. Like let's obviously it doesn't work, but like Halloween. If there'd been like a Halloween week at the LCS and like there was nothing happening in the league game, then maybe I'd be like, okay, well, how does this transcend like the fan fest or the tailgate or whatever you want to call it for the viewers at home? But I don't know. I kind of feel like it's okay if like if this feels like LCS is riffing off of a Riot Games League of Legends thing, that maybe there doesn't need to be as much interactivity in the broadcast. I don't know. Mark, what do you think?
I think I also picked Bwipo's brain about this, about like the difference between like competitive focus and like entertainment product, because we are an entertainment product, but you also don't want to ever like go so full meme or so like themed maybe that you lose sight of like the players playing the games that week. Because like if the broadcast builds a segment that's really funny and really fun, this is something that we sometimes get hot water for on the broadcast. Like say when Bwipo's team loses and we brought him on the desk and then we don't have a time for, we don't do the CLG post game, people get mad. If you build a segment that's like really Star Guardian fun themed kawaii desu, and then like some crazy upset happens, and then like you don't, it's like, okay, you're gonna cut the thing that you spent the whole week planning and making to get a post game interview, or do you just like kind of shaft that team? And I think anytime that you invest more into like the fun entertainment angle, it's gonna feel bad for the players. But I don't know, like Bwipo
even said Bwipo says he doesn't give a shit about narratives. You think he's gonna care about Star Guardian meme?
Well, that's why he doesn't care. He doesn't care about the narratives around the team. So yeah, just jam in Star Guardian
Bwipo,
stuff, right?
Mark's just trying to rant on your behalf. Why don't you give us your opinion?
Well, I'm not sure what to say really. I think Countdown's a great place to do it. If you're gonna do it. That said, I think in general the event was a bit disappointing on PC if you compare it to Wild Rift, which sucks to compare the
Wild Rift gamer Bwipo.
No, I'm not a Wild Rift gamer, but I like, for example, the fact that I can't have some of like really cool skins like Star Guardian, Seraphine, and Oriana, which make a lot more sense to me as Star Guardians than Talia and Rel, for example. Just personally speaking here, kind of sucks. I would have liked to have the option to have all of those champions, if that makes sense. Senna as well. I think that just kind of sucked, to be fair. So that's I think they dropped the ball altogether on Star Guardians. With that in mind, and then like the Star Guardian event seems to be a lot more interactive and lore focused on Wild Rift as well, as far as I'm understanding. This is me reading stuff on Reddit. I didn't actually open the game or try it, but just the fact
like a true Redditor
being exactly. But just the fact, alone that there is Star Guardian content that's not tied to League of Legends just feels wrong. Imagine if League of Legends MMO in the future has content that is not tied to League of Legends, the actual game. In the sense of like, there's, let's say, you have a Noxus raid in the League of Legends MMO, and then raid boss Darius is in that mode. Like I would want a skin of that in League of Legends, 100,000%, not even close. Just like they made Betrayer Gangplank, which I thought was absolutely awesome. They went out of their way to make Sea Dog Yasuo, for example, which I guess was a nod to Ruin King the game. But Betrayer Gangplank, for example, I love that skin. I love Gangplank in that game. I think that was awesome, and I think the fact that Wild Rift had their own event and us not getting skins of that, at least as a nod, like a nod to League of Legends, that feels like a waste of opportunity.
It's very funny. I know we're now way off topic, but I hope for Riot's take that Wild Rift actually is popular, because if it's not, I feel like all it serves is another vessel for League of Legends fans to be disappointed in League of Legends, because if Wild Rift ever does anything better than League, people are like, actually, I hate this. Anyway.
It's popular in China, I know. I don't know how it is in NA, but I'm pretty sure the mobile gaming market in China is just like shits all over the rest of the world anyways.
Yeah. So back to this, numiii. I don't know. Obviously, we talked for a while. I don't know if you have any kind of follow-up thoughts on this.
Yeah, so I think you bring up a great point where it felt like it was utilized like more in person. I just found it interesting. I think LCS retweeted like a Evil Genius's like Star Guardian fan art, and I know Porter Robinson was doing a week of like Star Guardian events with streamers and like offline TV, and it was just got me thinking about this take about how it'd be interesting to utilize it like more outside the game or like outside the event. And I just thought it'd be really cool for like online viewers to engage with that kind of event, considering this is probably one of the most highly anticipated events in League. But I do understand we are a service, like you're watching the game to like watch professional League of Legends, and like the Star Guardian event is on top of that. But I just thought it was kind of interesting to think about how online viewers can engage with like a topic like that.
Yeah, no, I think it's good, and I do like the idea of, even if I don't think it's super necessary, I don't think it's a bad idea for Riot to be thinking like, okay, if we're creating ways for people at the tailgate to interact with like the, a themed weekend or something like that, what are the ways that we can have the like fans at home also interact with it? So I appreciate the call, but also glad you had a good time. Any highlights from this weekend of your trip to the LCS?
I went Saturday, so unfortunately I did not see any of the Sunday games in person. But I want to give a shout out to just like the players in general. I waved hi to a couple of them outside of their games. They're all really polite and really nice. A couple of the players were like, "Do you want to take a picture?" So I just want to give a shout out to just the pro players in general. I thought they were really polite and nice, and despite like not doing formal meet and greets, they're really kind to fans whenever they walked up and asked for a picture or a signature.
Were there any pro players that weren't polite and nice that you want to name and shame right now on the show?
I didn't get a picture with Mark, and I kind of wanted to.
Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me.
What, you talked to us for like 5 minutes.
But then I saw you guys were making content. Like, I need to step away from the camera so they can do their job.
All right, apologies for not just saying you should, like, but like for Travis and I, we're never doing anything more like that's so important that like we can't take a picture usually. So apologies.
Right, and that's why I always try to make sure I can get a picture with people. I'm sorry that you had that experience.
The real answer is Travis is so self-absorbed that he just assumes everyone wants a picture with him, and I feel so fucking awkward whenever like I see someone, because this actually happened to me. Dude, I was at fucking Universal Studios in Orlando, and there was this guy who recognized me in line, and he geeked out for like a minute or two and was like, "Oh shit, you're Mark and you work on the blah blah blah." And then like it like kind of stalled down and got awkward, and I was like, "Did you want a picture?" And he's like, "No." And I think I've just been crippled for life from that, where I'm like, I'm never asking a fan again. Like if they want a picture, it's on them.
Also, from our perspective, this is a person we watch every week, right? You kind of like idolize. I don't know if that's the right attitude, but this is like a concept, you know. And then you see the person in real life, or like, what do I say now? So like, I understand that take, but also.
I know.
I forgot to ask for one.
I just want to say
I'm sorry, it's my bad.
I just want to say the fan at Universal definitely would have wanted a picture with me. That's what I'm gonna leave this with. Either way,
Travis would have been, if the guy said no, Travis would have been like, "Well, I'll take one anyways and send it to your DMs in case you want it, you know, and change your mind."
numiii, thank you for the call. Anything that you want to shout out before? Or yeah, you shout out the players. But hopefully we can catch you on in another episode. And I'm glad you had a good time at the LCS.
Yeah, for sure. Bye, y'all.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks.
Bwipo, since we're on awkward fan interactions, do you have any one that sticks out in your mind?
There was one that sticks out still to this day. There was a girl that came up. This was 2019 Rotterdam Spring Finals. There was a girl that came up and asked us to lift her up. You know how like some of the pro teams like lift one guy up like this, like lying down, and then I had to look at her and go like that. That was pretty awkward. And then I had to stand next to her and still take a picture. Oh, pain.
Yeah, I remember that used to be a thing that teams, a lot of people would ask to get like lifted up at the LCS meets, and then at some point in time, like many things in the LCS, somebody was like, "This is probably a liability concern," and so then after that, it stopped being a thing that was allowed. So.
Makes sense. I mean, we don't have liability concerns in Europe, so at least not as extreme as in the US. But it was just awkward. Like it's just awkward, you know. Like come on, we're a bunch of like esports gamers. Like half of us can't lift anything, let alone like a person. So you know, just awkward.
Yeah.
Well, either way, let's talk about our next sponsor of the night before we take our next caller, which is Grubhub. And I've got great news, everybody. I've got really great news. You've all been hounding me throughout the entire month of July to give you a code. And we didn't have codes for a little bit. And Grubhub is now back with codes that are specifically for this audience. This is only on the first 300 delivery orders. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking about waiting until later on in the week, maybe use it sooner rather than later, because the rest of my wonderful audience might steal them from you. But from August 1st to the 7th, you can use code TG. TG as in Travis Gafford. TG 5 off 15. The number 5 off the number 15 to receive $5 off on your Grubhub order of $15 or more. Again, only for the first 300 delivery orders. So we'll make sure that is in the link or in the description on YouTube if you're trying to get that. And if you haven't used Grubhub before, please make sure that you sign up with my link, because that's also very helpful. But $5 off 15. I'm going to make sure, we have it as a command in the chat, so I will I'll put that there as well on Twitch chat. But TG5 off 15 to save $5 off your Grubhub order of $15 or more. And make sure that while you're in there, you keep an eye on the Grubhub guarantee, because if your order is wrong or it ends up being late, you can make sure that you can hit them up and they will make it right. So thank you so much, Grubhub, for sponsoring the show. We love Grubhub. It's cool to have their code. I know they sometimes do LCS codes as well, so you can double up. You can use the LCS code on the weekend. You can use mine during the week. You're saving a bunch of money with these codes. So shout out to Grubhub for making this all happen. Really appreciate their sponsorship of the show. And speaking of Grubhub, we are targeting this week, hopefully it works out, to get the first episode of Dinner With, my interview series where I sit down with somebody over a meal to have a long conversation with them, which is quite fun. Usually somebody I know. And the first one is with Kobe. So if you missed the preview from a previous episode, we're hoping to get that out this week. So thank you to Grubhub for sponsoring the show. Dinner With coming out soon. And that should be it. Mark is grabbing the next caller at the moment. But shout out to Bigger Frog for 7 months, Billy DeMeyer, and Am Luke for the subs. So thanks, everybody. We should be good here in a second as Mark is pulling folks. Yeah, we got a bunch of cool stuff coming out right now on the Travis Gafford YouTube channel. I don't know if you guys saw it. Mark edited. This is a fully Mark edited video, a vlog that we did of the Star Guardian event at the LCS where Mark and I walked around and did a bunch of cool stuff at the Star Guardian event. So please go check that out. It's on the YouTube channel. I also tweeted out, but he did a great job with the edit. I was very proud of him. Oh, he's here. Never mind. I thought it was a terrible edit. Arsh is here. Arsh is here. Where are you calling from?
Normally I'm in Santa Monica.
And okay.
Right now I'll be back in Santa Monica in like 2 weeks. So.
Okay. You're in an undisclosed location is what I'm hearing.
SF. But yeah, undisclosed.
Oh, SF. Okay. Are you excited are you gonna try to go back to SF for World Finals?
Yes, I already have my flights. I got them as soon as the dates came out.
Awesome.
And I am camping whatever site they're gonna post the tickets on.
Yes.
I've already got an Airbnb with a bunch of collegiate esports people.
That's awesome. Well, best of luck. What do you want to talk about on the show?
My take was that let's make sure I get the right phrasing. FlyQuest are pretenders and got exposed for being one-dimensional as hell this weekend.
Wow. Okay, you want to expand on it a little bit?
Yeah. I mean, slight exaggeration, right? I don't think they're bottom of the league or whatever, but I think putting them on the same level as CLG, people seem to be putting CLG below them. Emily Rand talked this week on JLXP about how she thinks CLG is a good step above FlyQuest, and I agree. I think FlyQuest are, especially this weekend, it was pretty clear that there's a lot of things going wrong because they only have one play style. I did a statistical breakdown, which I can go into if you want for a piece that I'm writing, but basically it's just Tukui goes down in lane a little bit, works with Jose Deodo, and then after that he's their hard carry. He's got one of the highest damage percent, post 15 damage percent, behind only PoE as a carry for the team. And as soon as Tukui gets shut down when their 2v2 is losing early, it looks so bad. That's exactly what happened this weekend.
Well, I will say I haven't heard good things about Philip recently. There's been a lot of
very recently
and a very short time ago.
All right, before I give my take, I want to hear Bwipo's thoughts on FlyQuest, as well as broadly, if not them, who do you think's the fifth team in the top 5? Because I think generally there's a community consensus: EG, TL, C9, 100 Thieves. So what do you think?
Well, I think CLG deserves to be there. I also think I'm a believer is you play to see who ends up being where, I don't really ranking teams. Waiting until they play and then let the results speak, Yeah.
That doesn't make good content.
Yeah, I mean, I guess maybe I'm bad at making content. I don't know. I'm an avid enjoyer of watching the team brawl it out in order to see who's the best. That said, yeah, I don't know. I think it's a fair assessment to say CLG is better than FlyQuest. I think it's a fair assessment to say that they rely on their mid jungle. I do think they're their best players, but I think Johnson and Afro play I mean, when they're having a good games, I think they're pretty scary. They had some pretty good Twitch Yumi games, in my opinion. We ended up losing to that, I believe, or it was a very spicy game. We probably should have lost. I remember now, yeah, that we should have lost on the back of that Yumi Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't, you know what I mean? Hard for me to just say straight up like, oh yeah, I agree, FlyQuest are pretenders. That's a bit extreme. I think they're a good team, and they definitely rely on their mid jungle to do well, but I don't think that's necessarily a weakness. You know, it can be a strength, can be a weakness. Hard for me to really say. That said, if you think CLG is better than them, I think that's fair. But like I said, I'm not a big fan of speculating who's better, you know. Just look at their head-to-head and look at their standing. That usually speaks for itself. Obviously.
No shit talk ahead of your game against them on Saturday? You know, get some...
There's no need. I will let my gameplay speak for itself.
Fair enough.
I was going to be like, gun to your head, who's in the 5th? But Bwipo just literally is going to pick the standing, so it's CLG.
I mean, it's not. I don't think.
I mean, yeah. Like, is that wrong? That's the consensus here. I'm hearing. Like, wait, who's 4th? Is FlyQuest 4th?
No. So it's you, C9, and CLG tied for 3rd. So
okay.
that's the top 5, and FlyQuest is 6th.
So
just outside, but 1 game back.
Who's better than FlyQuest is literally just reading off the standing too. Like.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Bwipo here. It's like we do have our top 5. Like. 3 of them are tied for 3rd. I think that's fair. I think it's
but the round robin hasn't been completed, right? So it's not exactly fully played out, and a lot of people are generally of the belief that CLG won't be that strong coming into the end of the split. Like, I think that's pretty fair to say, right? Like, I think community sentiment is pretty FlyQuest favorite. I don't think that I'm like super vanilla for going for the FlyQuest are actually not good here, because I think a lot of people tend to favor FlyQuest over CLG coming into playoffs.
And
feel
if playoffs happens and FlyQuest are higher ranked than CLG, wouldn't you agree that after the double round robin they are in fact better? Is that a weird assessment to make?
I'm not sure. I was just
no, that's how I see it. You know, like after the end of the double round robin, if FlyQuest and CLG, FlyQuest is higher placed than CLG, then I would say that FlyQuest performed better than CLG.
I want a Bwipo podcast. I want a Bwipo podcast at the end of every week of the LCS, and it's like 5 minutes long, and he just like basically reads the standings.
Yeah, just breaking down what happened.
He's like, yeah, well, you know, FlyQuest better this week. They ended up above them.
In Bwipo's defense, they have about the same schedule for the rest of the split. I'm like looking at the last 5 games, and like it's pretty similar. So it's hard to say that like one or the other has had like a really easy first half.
I actually think it is a very close debate, and their position has literally flip-flopped in the standings depending on who they're playing. Like last week, FlyQuest played Golden Guardians and Dig, and CLG played EG and 100 Thieves. Or excuse me, EG and Team Liquid. And so CLG gets 2-0'd, FlyQuest goes 2-0. This week, it's the exact opposite. FlyQuest plays C9 and EG 0-2. CLG, Golden Guardians, and Dig the toss 2-0, and they overtake them in the standings 1-1. Wait, am I trolling? Wait,
we lost the CLG.
Oh shit, I forgot. You're right. I messed up reading these standings.
Yeah,
but that's kind of also what I mean, where it's like if like Bwipo, not to like, you know, but like if you're just gonna go off of like, oh, you know, they played 18 best of ones in a double round robin, and then like that's the for sure the standings.
Like, best of 5 is going to determine who the best team is. End of story. You know, like that's just the way it is. That's what I'm waiting for. Best of 1. Like,
we're talking about
best of 1s are like whatever, bro. Like sure, you won a best of 1.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
Proud of you, bro.
That's what I mean. It's not necessarily like you can't just read off the standing. I don't know. I was just
no. I agree with you. No, but I'm just saying, like for example, if you come in and he's like C9, like last week you come in C9 are pretenders. Their early games are trash because last week like they had some very unfortunate early game. They come in next week and they actually look very good. Like they played very well against us, and they had a pretty good weekend this last weekend. But the weekend before that, they were definitely very shaky. In general, they were looking pretty shaky. So I think that makes sense. But I feel like FlyQuest hasn't looked that shaky. You know, you can say that they rely on their mid jungle to do well, but if they consistently do well, then is that really a weakness? You know, is that not more of a strength? Is what I'm trying to get at.
Here's one of the biggest issues when I look at the CLG FlyQuest thing. Is that Fudge's top lane rankings has Philip at 5th and Dhokla at 8 or 9th. And so if you think about it, at least in the top lane, CLG probably not nearly as good as FlyQuest because their top laner is almost like twice as bad as Phillips. So I think that's a huge part of it. Just looking at it from Fudge's perspective.
I think Dhokla's about to blow up the chat.
I'll defend Arsh a little bit in the sense that like I do enjoy speculating on who's better. Using eye test as well. Like, I think you can do the games, and ultimately, I am, like, in the end, kind of Team Bwipo, because I feel like the what-if scenarios people start playing, but, like, no, they really are better, but they just happen to lose that series. So they just lost that game, you know? Like, I think you do have to respect what happens on game day to some extent, but I also, prior to, like, the best of fives breaking out and stuff like that, you know, I like thinking about it and debating. I think the teams are actually pretty different between CLG and Fly. Like, I think they play the game very differently. CLG seems to opt into like a lot more early game proactive playmaking. And like Contracts will go for like chain ganks or like really heavy invades while playing with his laners. And they seem to play around him a lot more and like end up flipping games, it feels like a little bit more often, where they are like just down to really scrap out a situation. I would say FlyQuest hadn't really been that way too much. But then they fucking inted that Rift Herald fight where they just got aced against C9, where they were like doing very well into Fudge and playing intelligently, and then just straight ran it. So
Olaf OP.
Yeah, so like I feel like a lot of times, to your point, Arsh, like I do feel like FlyQuest like to have
on that topic. I have a hot take. I need to get it out.
Okay, get it out. Go.
Blabber's Olaf was fucking abysmal. Bro, this guy hasn't played a champion since the rework, and you could see it. He learned the champion as he was playing.
Yeah.
As he was playing, he realized how to play the new Olaf. No cap.
Actually, kind of true. He was like doing weird stuff with Axis.
Like the first two skirmishes, I could tell this guy, he forgot his ultimate doesn't end if he keeps going. There was the skirmish against the Poppy, and he just let his ult run out. I was like, just keep hitting the Talia when she melee ranges on top of you, bro. What is this? I was watching, I was like, he hasn't played. Like, don't get me wrong, his Olaf has historically been very, very fucking good. Like, don't misunderstand. I'm not throwing shade on how his Olaf has been. It's just, since the rework, he clearly hasn't played the champion enough. My opinion, obviously, close to my heart. I spammed the living hell out of that champion, and I think he's still one of my staples right now. But, like, come on. Like, people were praising him like he was popping off, and I was just looking at it like, Jesus Christ. I can tell he's picking up the champion as he's going. He realized 2 deaths in how to commit to a skirmish with Olaf. And then I was like, well, there you go. At least he learned how to do it as he was going.
There was the ult flash Q play where he just like walks at him with ult, wears off, and he's like, never mind.
Yeah. There was a few hiccups there, but don't get me wrong. He had the right idea, just the execution was off, and he picked up on the execution as he kept playing. That's what I noted. Which is a skill, you know, learning during the game is a skill. You know, you need to be able to adapt to what's going wrong and then do better. So props to him for that. But definitely was not impressed with his Olaf at first. Later on, he got a little bit better.
He's scaling. Olaf
he alt-tabbed and he looked at the patch notes. Alt-tabbed real quick.
Yeah. He realized how to play the champion as he was going, which props to him. Anyway, I had to get that out of my system because I was watching the game and everyone was praising him like, bro, Olaf's insane. I'm just looking at that like, bro, I would have been 7-0 by now.
You know what? I will say there's probably a lot of times that pro players see the post-game Reddit threads and most fans just see high KDA must have played well. I would love if pro players threw each other under the bus more often and be like, are you kidding me? He didn't play well. He fucked up here, and here, and just start more of a conversation around it. Because then Blabber comes back in. I don't know. It'd be fun.
You should sneak it into blame game somehow, Mark. I feel like that's a good blame game situation. I don't know.
But people are only praising it. It's not. I don't.
Yeah. You have to create a, like, you know how sometimes you have comment of the week and you don't always have it. You should also have like flame of the week or something like that.
We'll clip Bwipo's little rant here.
Yeah, the anti-blame game. All right, Arsh, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Yeah, I just had 2 shout outs. First, you guys, I'm gonna be back at like I'm gonna go to LCS like all during playoffs basically. And when I went last time, like nobody was there because it was like spring and like just open, so I didn't get to like see anyone. But I'm gonna like try to see people, so I'm gonna say hi to you guys, and I will ask to get a picture with Mark and not with Travis because he will ask me, hopefully. And then second shout out for River because I am an intern at Dignitas and I was distraught when I heard the news that he was leaving us. And then, but I do hope he does well at Go to Guardians because then it's like, you know, like yes, a little bit like.
Don't pretend. You were happy to see them go 0-2 this weekend, weren't you? Golden Guardians.
I mean, I think that they could actually do well. I'm a Golden Guardians fan, so I don't know. I think they could do well.
Arsh, how many mouse pads do you have now?
What?
It's a Dignitas joke. It's an old meme. Anyway,
I am not that good with old memes.
No, you're good. You're good. Sorry, you were saying?
But I was just gonna say like last thing. Spawn is actually like piss smurfing, I think. But like Dig doesn't get attention because I get it, right? But like he's actually doing really well, and he's like a young player who's like doing really well, and I don't know. I think I think it's pretty cool. So I feel like people should pay attention to that. But
awesome.
That's it.
Thank you so much for the call, and we'll see you at playoffs.
All right. Bye. Thank you.
Have a good one. All right. Mark is off to go grab the next caller. He went to the wrong channel first, which was very funny to see. Let's see. No new subs yet, so I will. Oh, there we go. Bowen Chung. Hey, Bowen. Nice to see you. I believe you might know Bowen Bwipo, if you want to explain who he is.
He is. It's hard to explain because he's so many great things. I work with Bowen. He has helped me work on my mental health significantly. But he's a doctor of many talents. Works with awesome. Yeah, I can only say good things about him. Fantastic individual.
Well, thank you for the sub, Bowen. Regardless, TLegs is here. T, where are you calling from?
Hey, I'm calling from Chicago, Illinois.
Hey, another Chicago. Are you gonna go to finals?
I am. I could not be more excited about it.
Awesome.
That's
well,
awesome.
Hopefully if we do Live Hotline League there, we'll see you.
Yeah, I was hoping...
Oh, what's that?
Do you have any news on Live Hotline League?
Well, if we were to do a Live Hotline League, it would be more likely we would do one at the same time we did the last one, which was morning of at FanFest at the Grubhub booth. If we were to do one again, that would be a likely scenario. There's a lesser scenario where we would also do one the night before, but that scenario might be looking less likely in recent situations. Anyway, what do you want to talk about on the show?
My take is that teams needed hire experienced editors, PR, and marketing staff that are able to create engaging YouTube videos that's similar to what's currently doing well on YouTube, and that also provide brand development to their players.
Okay, did you ask Mark for a take for this week?
This was unprompted. I didn't have to use a plant.
Hilarious. It's so fucking funny. This is amazing.
So, Travis, explain why you're so happy about this.
I mean, it's so okay. So, I was putting together a presentation recently to talk to some folks about sort of my YouTube channel and all that kind of stuff. And so, as part of that, I was looking at where my YouTube channel ranks compared to other LCS YouTube channels that are primarily LCS content, like the LCS YouTube channel that Riot owns and Team Liquid and et cetera, not looking at like VOD content. And I am, I think, top 3 behind, or I might be it depends on when you look at it, but I think very recently I was number 2 behind Team Liquid, and then LCS was behind me. And most of the teams are way down. And doing this exploration, I realized just how little content teams still release on their own YouTube channels. I think FlyQuest might have been number 4, by the way. So shout out to FlyQuest, because people used to meme their YouTube channel and they actually get decent number of views. But even then, people are not releasing very many videos anymore on their channels, and when they do, they frequently don't perform very well. And I mentioned this to Mark, and then Mark went on a 15... Mark felt so passionately about this that I had messaged him twice about it on Messenger, and I was like, oh yeah, did you see this? He immediately called me, unprompted. Well, my computer starts ringing, because immediately Mark is like, oh, no, I got to talk to you about this. And he went on a 15-minute rant about his thoughts on team content. So the fact that you called in with exactly the take that Mark would have created if, like 4 or 5 days ago when we were talking about this is astonishing.
Well,
anyway.
I just lose track of who I've had these conversations with sometimes, and like the team content angle was one that I had done a big blame game that did not come out about a certain topic you can maybe guess, because I did not want to reignite a conversation. And one of the things I wanted to talk about was the ecosystem as a whole. And like, not only do the team's content not perform super well, but like teams have just straight inted. And this was the thing I pointed out to Travis and like ranted about, was they just inted their YouTube channels. Like every big org broke their main channel away into like their esports or LOL channel, but then they like their main channel just stops making shit for the most part. And then it's their small LOL channel that is where all their content's coming out. So like Team Liquid, for example, had 500,000-ish subs on their main channel. They haven't posted there in fucking months. And then they made a Team Liquid LOL one where all their content comes out, but it's only got like, 20K subs or something, or 24K. And it's like, so many teams have done this. C9 did the same thing. 100 Thieves did it, but they're a little bit more understandable because they have a lot of influencers that they put on the main channel. As you all know. But like, you just see these decisions being made. TSM hadn't posted for a long time. They're trying to get a little bit more, but TSM had 2.4 million subs, and they post like once every 3 weeks right now. And like, oh god, it was just one of those things where I went on this massive rant to Travis about, because I think, to the caller's point, modern viewers change. Viewers' interests change. The meta changes on YouTube. And I don't think teams have done a good job updating. I think FlyQuest has, and that's one of the reasons that, despite not being the most popular org with the most popular players, they're fourth or whatever. But then I also think that like there's just actual decisions that are very questionable.
One of the things that I don't even think we talked about, Mark, was that some of the teams now release, like the ones that are still doing their docuseries, are often releasing them on Saturday, which is
okay.
Like
so someone chimed in that Team Liquid posted again. I got Cloud9 and Team Liquid confused. Cloud9 was the one not posting on their main channel. Team Liquid is still posting on their main channel. It just gets no fucking views.
Well, they also don't post legal, like it's all like,
that's what I mean. They pulled their League of Legends content, which is their best performing stuff, off their biggest channel. So I got it confused. Cloud9 is the one whose main channel is not posted in much, where their LoL one is updated frequently and actually gets good viewership. And in Team Liquid's main channel, they pulled their LoL stuff off, and they just post content that doesn't do very well. So correction from Twitch chat. Thank you very much. Point still stands exactly as is.
But as an aside, I do think it's strange that some of the teams are releasing content on Saturday, because in my experience, like I am sometimes bad and do release content on Saturday. Like I think I posted a Huhi interview on Saturday this week. But anytime I ever release content on a LCS day, it just goes into the abyss. So it's like, I feel like it's strange to release Squad, for instance, on Saturday, and they used to release these things on like Thursday or Friday. And
no, they
had like a.
Well, they also released it on Saturday, actually, back in the day, because LEC played on Thursday, Friday, and there was no competition in the morning time slot because LCS was the only thing waiting to start. And so a lot of teams, because they knew fans were waiting, would drop their content at like 10 or 11 on Saturdays, and then that would channel like the waiting viewership into viewership. LEC has been fucking on Saturday mornings for years now. Why are you trying to drop content against post-match threads and like your active viewership watching something else? Like, it's just baffling decisions that people don't think about.
I don't feel like they used to release Squad on Saturday. I feel like they used to release it on Friday. But I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Bwipo just big chilling as we're flaming TL right now.
I don't know. These things go over my head, Like I'm just a player, man. I just do the content. They post it where they want, when they want. It's none of my business. The only thing I know is that I did a bunch of content in between the splits, and I hope everyone enjoys that.
Well said. I think it is a fair call out, and TLegs, I appreciate that Mark fed you this so that you would come on the show and say it.
Can I? To be honest, I've been like brewing this take for like several weeks now, because I've become less engaged with like teams specifically, and I've been trying to figure out why. And even like Cloud9, like their YouTube content they're putting out isn't connecting me with the players like it used to do. But honestly, all hell broke loose today when Golden Guardians released their content video, and it got released today as less than 200 views. They're trying, so no shame to them, but it was how well do the Golden Guardians know these League of Legends down? And the video was just like, the pacing was bad. Licorice looked absolutely miserable to be there in that video, and that's kind of where I am of like, you've got to look at like what's working now. Like Mr. Beast, I know you love him, Travis. Like he has popular, good content. Like follow that model, follow that algorithm, and like actually
but Mr. Beast does like crazy
like,
stuff, right? Am I crazy? Okay, I don't watch a lot of his stuff, but I don't think you're ever going to get a situation where it's like
just the pacing of the video.
Our LCS, our bot lane is competing against our top side for $500,000. You know what I mean? Like but I know what you mean about pacing.
Well, I mean, even just the titling, right? How well do these what is the title? How well do the Golden Guardians know these League of Legends sounds? Dude, that's a hell of a clickbait right there, dude. Does that not make you just want to click that video right then and there?
No.
Thank you for answering.
No, not immediately.
Yeah. And I feel bad flaming specific teams because I know there are people working on their content teams that are trying hard on this stuff, but I think here's what I will say. Even I, on my own YouTube channel, have had a hard time keeping up with the changes to YouTube's algorithm, to the titling, to the thumbnails. Mark and I have argued about it a bunch on like our Genshin channel.
I will say, Travis and I have gone as hard at each other on content than we do publicly to any teams. Like I understand that this sounds very harsh probably, but like one of the reasons I'm going to take credit for this, that Travis is ripping off Pop Quiz, is because I was like, stop just doing generic interviews if they don't get good viewership. Like you can't just keep doing the same thing. You know, got to mix it up.
To be clear, they're not generic. They're actually really fucking good interviews, and when people watch them, they enjoy them. I just don't think that they work as well within like YouTube's algorithm these days. And you need, like, I was watching a Wired video of like Wired autocomplete or whatever, and MKBHD, Marcus Brownlee. He was talking about how in the past year, like, so he's been doing YouTube stuff for like ever. And in the past year, he said they switched from being like, what is a good video, to doing what is a good thumbnail and title. And then they come up with the thumbnail and title first, and then they decide how to make the video, which is painful for me as a content creator, because I'm like, that just sounds like the death of content is now you're just thinking like, what is a good title and thumbnail, and then like you make the video from that. But it is like fascinating to see how YouTube has changed. And yeah, I do think that like my content, like many of the LCS teams, I have struggled to adapt to the YouTube meta.
But like the funny thing is about that is that that's like the tale as old as time. You know the saying, don't judge a book by a cover? It's actually fucking horseshit. And it's actually why people spend so much money researching covers, and like there's so many trends. If you look at like any contemporary even old books get new cover updates to match trends in the current marketplace. And there's a huge emphasis put on opening lines in books in your first page, and how does your first page read in your first chapter, and like hooking people. And that's the exact same thing in YouTube with your first 30 seconds. How does your thumbnail work? How does your title work? It's actually in just like every sort of browsing based media, you need to be thinking about these things. And I don't think people do.
Hey caller, thank you so much, TLegs, for the call. I think we've tired out Bwipo with this conversation, so we need to move on to our last call.
I think it's very interesting. I just don't have anything to add, unfortunately.
Sorry.
No, I don't like to comment on things I don't know about, so I can't speak. But I am listening, and I think it's an engaging topic, and it's a shame that I don't know more. It's just, I guess all I can add to the conversation is pro players are just as fucking clueless. So it's not like we are giving any suggestions, and maybe that's a problem too.
We are all clueless. That's what we're getting at. Either way, thank you so much, TLegs, for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
Shout out to Grubhub. Since you told me about connecting it to my Prime, I have probably ordered 5 or 6 times just because of that. So shout out to that. And shout out to this show, JLXP and Riff Reaction, for making my work commute livable. And my buddy Ben. Thank you.
Have you watched TLegs? Have you watched Players yet?
I have been saving it. I've watched the first episode, and I've been waiting to binge it.
36 hours to finish it so that you can listen to this week's episode of Rift Reaction, which will be with Misha Brooks, who plays Cream Cheese. So if you want to listen to Rift Reaction this week, our interview with Cream Cheese and his actor will be available. Anyway, thank you, TLegs, for the call, and we'll catch you next time.
A huge fan of Bwipo's in Twitch chat has just been hard spamming a question. I want to tell him to stop it, but I feel kind of bad. Dhokla
What's his name?
Dhokla lol in Twitch chat asks, what do you think of coaching an NA versus EU to the Bwips?
And a European assistant coach.
What'd you say?
I have a European head coach and a European coach, in case you didn't know. So it's hard for me to really give you an answer there, no? I feel like, I think coaching's pretty universal. I think coaching, it's too much individual based. Some coaches are really hands-on with, like, for example, Young Buck was very much more hands-on with, like, his opinions of, like, yeah, you can play this, or no, you can't. And, like, he didn't beat around the bush with it, which I thought was good. I think we're a little bit more sensitive here with that, but I think that's more the style. Like, that's, like, the biggest difference I could tell. Like, Dylan, for example, when I worked with him, which was an NA coach, so, I think coaching staff is probably, like, the most universal in the sense that EU coaches go to NA and NA coaches go to EU and back and forth and kind of whatever, but the biggest difference is just personalities, right? Who you're working with, the biggest difference. And here, I think it's much more of a democracy. And whereas with Dylan, it was like win rates were really important. And if your champion wasn't performing well in solo queue, then you would have a really hard time convincing him that it was actually good. On the flip side, even if your champion was like a donkey champion like Singed, it was easy to convince him if the win rates were high. So it worked both ways. That's why I ended up playing that. But I think that every coach is different, and I think more of a coach-to-coach thing than a region-to-region thing, my personal opinion. I think Asian coaches are probably varied, but I have not had the opportunity to work with any of those.
Mark, you want to go grab our last caller?
Off he went.
Thank you to So Many Things, Shavul, E-Smoothie. Oh, So Many Things for 4 years. Holy crap. Thank you, So Many Things. K-Cal and the Eternal Cow for all the subs. Really appreciate everybody's subs. Ari's very helpful. By the way, I turned on memberships on YouTube. I don't know if anybody cares about it, but that's like a thing if you want. Bluejay is here. Bluejay, it's been a while since we've had you on the show. Where are you calling from tonight?
Calling from Ontario. How you guys doing?
Doing pretty good. You should watch my video about the geography because
I'll like that. I like geography.
Ontario may or may not be one of the things, and it'll be fascinating for you to see people's stuff.
Is your content, like, are the people that watch able to, like, participate in the content, or do you, like, give away the answers too quick kind of thing? Do you know what I'm asking?
Just watch. Anyway, okay. What do you want to talk about on the show?
Mark, I'm throwing you under the bus here. Mark made me come up with a last-second topic about TL, so I did my best. It feels like the problem with TL is that there doesn't seem to be anything consistent from week to week that you could point to as being the problem with TL for why they can't go to 0. And I just have a question for Bwipo. If there's anything that you find has been consistently an issue, which is stopping you guys from being the obvious, like, super team squad that you guys have on paper.
Hard to answer that question too, honestly. I'm a very opinionated person, and I know that, and some of that is not meant for the public.
Don't get yourself in trouble on the show. We like spice. We always love throwing people under buses here, but you know.
I want to make that clear.
What did you scream about yesterday, Bwipo, at your teammates? Just let us know, and that's good enough drama.
Yeah, I mean, we had a really good team meeting. We talked about a lot of stuff. Tried to be as honest as possible, which I think is hard, but I guess in a way, assuming that the person that's struggling has it covered, I think would be the number one issue. So it's like if I was struggling in spring and people just assumed that I would pick up Slack and made things work again like I used to. There was no real support, or at least I didn't feel like I was supported in trying to recover that as much as I would have liked, and I think that has been recurring, where if someone's having a rough week or rough weeks, whichever, I think that we can do a better job as support those as players. Mostly as players, staff always does their best. It's hard for me to really say what staff can do, but I feel like in between players, like I think week 2 Hans had a pretty rough week, and I could have done a much better job at supporting, reassuring him that I've still got his back, and we're gonna make it work.
That's an interesting way to put it, because there was a time when I was with Team Liquid where we finished first in the regular season, and so we had like the extra bye week, and during that time there was also just a week off before the first round of playoffs. So we had, I think it was 3 weeks before we fucking played a stage game, and I think it led to some people, we tried to experiment more with that extra period of time, and I think some people's performance started slipping, and there was a feeling that like, okay, it's week 1 and this player is not performing well. I'm not going to go hard on them and like try and force them to play better or like really like dig in. And then there's a problem week 2. And then that like by the end of week 2, it was like, now we really have to talk about this fucking problem. And at that point we had wasted basically 2 weeks of practice. And then like week 3 is now trying to salvage that. So I think I can understand a little bit what you're talking about, where like you kind of just like sometimes leave people like, oh, they had a bad week of scrims. Do I hop in here and like insert myself into this, or do I just like, oh, I trust this guy, he'll be good again, and then they don't bounce back or something?
Yeah, basically that. It's a question of like, should I? And I think that's really on us as players, where it's like we didn't get to know each other well enough to know whether someone appreciates that or not. If you were to ask me right now, straight up, like, should I jump in if someone has a bad week and try and cheer them up or not? I actually can't give you an answer for almost any, like literally any, which I think is obviously a really bad thing. I'm not saying that, to like as a good thing. That is a bad thing, and I recognize that, and that's definitely gone moving forward.
Kind of on the topic of TLs, it's like odd to talk about a team that's in 3rd place is like struggling, but on the topic of TL's inconsistency, Bwipo, you mentioned earlier, as we were joking about like the standings and all that stuff, that you're like, hey, like what really matters is who can win in the best of 5 when playoffs hits, and like that's how you figure out who the better team is. So is that something you lean on as kind of a philosophy right now, where you're like, look, we're figuring stuff out, but I'm not in panic mode because you think like, okay, what really matters is playoffs and best of 5s and all that stuff? Or is it a situation where like, because you guys have had these 1-1 weekends so frequently that you do start to be like, oh god, we've only got like 2 more weeks before playoffs hits, we got to figure this out? Like, kind of where are you at these days?
Me personally, I'm more in the, we've still got time. I've been in worse, like I said, I've been in worse situations, and with lineups that I would say are, have less potential. That said, like I think it's hard for me to really pinpoint where everyone is at, where I'm at exactly, because it's like next week will determine a lot. We're playing Flying EG, depending on whether we go 0-2 or 1-1 or 2-0 will make a very big difference, I think, in the response from the team as well as me individually. So I think this week week 7 will definitely determine how much has to change. No, like must change, there is no more, dilly-dallying around. There is no more time to be wasted type of thing, because it's, if we go 2-0 next week and we're still looking at top 2 because of standings or whatever, then I still think it's possible that then I think people will calm down a lot. But I think if we go 0-2 or 1-1 again, I think stress will really start catching up with.
Yeah. So kind of make or break weekend coming up, I guess. It sounds
Maybe I could just ask a question, because it feels like the community perception of Team Liquid is that they play too slow and like they get a lot of leads early on, but they don't really do enough with them. Would you agree or disagree with the community sentiment? I think that's my read on what the community thinks of TL. Would you agree or disagree with that?
I don't think we play too slow. I think we play poorly around neutral objectives, end up losing them. At least on stage, we end up losing neutral objectives when we shouldn't. But I don't think that's a byproduct of playing too slow. So that's like I think in the early game, we can definitely use the leads that we create in lanes more. So I agree with that. But I think that when it comes to neutrals in the mid game, I think we end up being in unfavorable position because we are not playing well enough around them, personally.
I think that's my opinion as well, because people keep saying this, like, oh, TLers are just so passive and whatnot, and I'm like, you guys are like third in the league in kills and assists at 15 by like a pretty good amount. You know, like you're first in the league in goal difference at 15. You clearly try to find lane leads. Your team works well about like at least making kills happen during the first 15 minutes of the game. Like, it's just numerically true. You guys get a lot of kills and assists early on. But I think people see things like in the C9 game, the Baron situation where you reset and C9 just kind of sneaks Baron. And I think there's an assumption that like you guys just gave it to them and like you didn't contest that. There's some dragons that sometimes don't get contested. And I think that's where the perception comes from, because I definitely think there's times where Team Liquid is clearly being proactive through the first 15 minutes, but then sometimes there's objectives that you guys don't contest. I think that's often the vibe.
I mean, I agree. Sometimes we're not contesting objectives we should be because we are stronger, but we just don't recognize it in the moment or something wrong or whatever. I agree with that. But I agree with the sentiment that I do believe that we are, we're not a slow team. I don't think we're AFK in the early game. I don't think we're AFK in the mid game either. Like, we are playing the game. Just we can do a better job of, we can do a better job of playing around neutral objective. That's 100. I think we're the worst dragon team in the league, I believe, and that's a bad thing. Don't get me wrong, that's a very bad thing, especially in 12.14 where dragons go up often. We're aware of that. This is what we're working on for the next patch, I hope. I believe at least. No surprise to anyone. Dragons got pretty good pretty fast.
Yeah. I mean, you guys also have one of the fastest game times as well. So the whole like slow team thing, I think it's just objectively not true.
Crazy though, right? I've heard many people say TL slow. Okay.
It is the prevailing sentiment where like you'll watch, like if you go into a post game thread, you'll often see pretty highly upvoted comments about like, oh, TL is just so slow and boring. And I think it's because like when they do get leads, because they often have them, they don't necessarily contest things people think they should or whatever, to Bwipo's point. So that's why it feels like they're slow, even though numerically they're not.
Also, LCS contests every single objective no matter what. Majority of teams do this. So in comparison, we are slow. Yeah, like FlyQuest gets 5 mana to the Herald that already died. You know
Good
what
play.
I mean?
They contested.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Is that better? Is it better to get the ace to the Herald that you already lost rather than just take an L? Not sure about that. So, you win some, you lose some is the mindset here, and I feel like LCS is very much about you try to win everything, all in or nothing.
All gas,
every
no
objective,
breaks.
you investigate, you see what's up, try and pick a fight.
Bluejay, thank you so much for the call. Anything you want to shout out?
No shout out. Just a question of, do you guys know approximately when Worlds tickets would go on sale? Like, I'm kind of getting anxious to like plan this stuff myself. I already know like when I can go to like get a hotel and stuff like that, but I like when Worlds happens, I'm going to group stage. I want to buy the tickets for week 2 when like I know the NA teams are playing. So like, how do they do that? Is it like groups are pulled and then they like tickets go on sale? Does anyone know how that stuff works?
I assume. Well, I don't think that they will do group pull. Like the thing is that people haven't really noticed is that LCS ends like 2 weeks or something before World starts, which I actually am not a big fan of. Like I actually think that's not great. But I don't think they won't be able to pull the groups until after LCS ends, I imagine.
Yeah, of course not, right?
So I don't think it'll be Worlds groups that they pull. I think it'll just be they'll start selling beforehand, which is
like they'll sell day 1, day 2, day 3. You mean?
Yeah. They'll sell that, and then ironically, like you won't know when you're buying days 5 through 8 of groups, you won't actually know what group you're getting to watch that day when you buy it, which is a little weird. I mean, the same thing happens with quarters and semis.
Yeah,
and
I was gonna say it does suck, but it's just kind of like an unfortunate. Like you can't not put the tickets up or like control for that necessarily. Same way with like, yeah, you bought finals tickets, you don't know who's going to be in finals. A whole bunch of people ended up supporting EG when they probably should have for Team Liquid, like when they bought the tickets or whatever in Houston,
Yeah, but I mean, that's the stuff that I at least want to know, right? Because I didn't even know when they were going on sale. So if I had to buy day 5, for example, at least I know like what I'm getting into. Because I don't know. We're kind of just sitting here waiting, as you guys are already aware.
You know what might be hilarious though? The NA teams that are going into finals, for summer finals, I wouldn't be surprised if they can scrim Worlds teams.
Oh, that's
before summer finals. If you think about the timelines, it would not be crazy to suspect that like some of the teams, if they're trying to like, if they're trying to just like adjust to coming over here early. No,
not happening. No, the Asian teams come as late as possible. They always.
You don't think European teams will come over here
North
early?
America? People are going to be leaving North America to scrim for like probably a week or two, because while World starts, it's only the play-ins team. So like NA third seed will have to stay here probably, but I wouldn't be surprised if seed 1 and seed 2 maybe even try and get a quick boot camp in. I don't know if they will or not, but it wouldn't shock me.
Will Worlds teams be able to access the Champions queue, or is it just going to be solo queue?
We better get them in Champions queue, man. When Faker came over in 2016, was it Faker in 2013? And like just tore up solo queue or whatever, you know, like that was the stuff.
Part of the problem, Mark, is with ping. Like these guys are not all going to be in LA, right? And the server's in LA. So the question is, are they moving the server around? Like
I would be seriously surprised.
Oh, true.
I would be seriously surprised if they make it work for everyone. If they do, I think it's okay. But like also like Champions queue is like with money involved, and like putting a Champions queue, like a money incentive during Worlds. For solo queue performance?
Yeah, I don't think it's happening.
It's just
not going to work.
All right, so you already have to make tournament realm. Like, Champions queue is just on a tourney realm. You don't need to do the money incentive. I feel like you could definitely repurpose the bot. I feel like they could do it if they wanted to, because you're going to be bringing servers anyways to all these locations.
Mark has so much faith in his employer.
Well, they better get on that stuff soon.
It's just
I don't think it's gonna happen. I don't want anyone to hear this and be like, "Oh, it's not a big issue." Like, no, there's obviously tech difficulties to make it happen.
Mark Zimmerman says that if Riot Games doesn't make this happen, they're lazy. Okay, Bluejay, thank you so much for the call. You used your shout out on the question and then continued to ask questions.
Thanks for having me on, guys. Take care.
Yeah, we'll catch you later.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, that is the show. Mark, what do you want to shout out and plug?
Nothing.
Really?
Shout out Paper Girls, because there was this song I heard like 2 years ago that I kind of knew, but I didn't know the name of it, and I couldn't fucking remember the song. And then in Paper Girls, they played Danzig Mother, which is a banger song. And then I was like, oh, that guy's voice sounds familiar to that one song I was looking for years ago. And then I realized he was also the front man for Misfits, an iconic punk band. And then I found the song today.
Didn't they sell their spot recently?
So fucking lame, dude.
Bwipo, what would you like to shout out? Anything you want to plug?
Shout out to the fans for, supporting the team the best they can. I know it's a tough one. I appreciate y'all. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Sunday. Oh, Monday, sorry. I always think it's Sunday because it's
Yeah. It's like your day
It's your
weekend.
Yeah.
Bwipo, thank you for making the time and continuing our streak
much.
of pro players. It's always a pleasure to have you in an interview or on content or anything, so this has been really cool. For me, my shout-outs are this. We have Dinner With, which is coming out hopefully this week with Kobe. It's going to be awesome. There are multiple interviews that I did with some of the players, actors. On Rift Reaction with Emily tomorrow, we're going to be talking to Cream Cheese's actor, Misha Brooks. That'll come out on Wednesday. There's just a whole bunch of really cool stuff hitting right now. Go look at the vlog that Mark edited for our Star Guardian stuff, and look at Mark's editing skills, which are pretty decent, and his comedic timing is mostly okay. And
I will also say, the people were talking about the music, dude. EG's booth was fucking blasting like EDM that we would absolutely get copyright struck for, because it's just be in the background. So I had to put music on top, which sometimes was like made hearing what we were saying hard, but it was like either get DMCA'd or put that music over the top. So
either way, that is the show. Thanks, Bwipo. Thanks everyone for watching. We'll see you all next week.